Chapter 409. Qin Haodong didn't seem to react for a while, but the second master figured out what was going on before he did and immediately became excited. Sitting on Qin Haodong's body and feeling the change of the second master, Hu Shaoxian giggled and said, "Little man, don't play dumb with me. I can feel it." "Well, let's eat." Qin Haodong said with a little embarrassment. Hu Shaoxian hugged his neck tightly, put her cheek on his cheek and said, "Why do you only think about eating? Don't you want to eat me?" Eat, I must eat you today." Qin Haodong was really tortured by Hu Shaoxian in the past few days. Now that his period was finally over, he could no longer control his inner impulse. He picked her up and rushed to the bedroom. Unexpectedly, when they just threw themselves on the big bed, they heard a violent knock outside the door. "Who is so annoying?" Qin Haodong said discontentedly. "So late. Could it be that someone knocked on the wrong door?" Hu Shaoxian was also a little surprised. They didn't know anyone in Burma at all. No one should come to the door at night. They originally wanted to wait and see, but the man didn't leave. On the contrary, the knocking on the door became more and more urgent. Qin Haodong sighed. It seemed that they had to stop. He and Hu Shaoxian put on their clothes again and went to the yard to open the door. As soon as the door was opened, a figure covered in blood rushed in from the outside and fell to the ground with a plop. Qin Haodong looked at it and found that it was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He was seriously injured at this time. There were more than a dozen wounds on his body, including gunshot wounds and knife wounds. Fortunately, none of them were fatal, so he was alive. Qin Haodong carried him into the clinic, put him on the bed, and used genuine qi to force all the bullets out of his body. Then he applied the medicine on the wound and injected a trace of green with genuine qi into him. A few minutes later, the middle-aged man slowly opened his eyes. He glanced around and found that he was in the Tangmen clinic. He said to Qin Haodong, "Doctor, thank you for saving me." Qin Haodong said, "You're welcome. I'm a doctor. It's my duty to save people." The middle-aged man took out a few bloody bills from his pocket and put them on the bed. Then he struggled to stand up. Hu Shaoxian said, "Your injury has just healed. It's not suitable for you to move now." The middle-aged man said, "Thank you for saving me, but I will bring disaster to you if I stay here. I must leave now." Qin Haodong said, "You're a patient and I'm a doctor. Now you've lost too much blood and your wound hasn't completely healed. Just rest here for one night before you leave." The middle-aged man's facial features were regular and he looked honest. He didn't look like a treacherous person, so he decided to help him. "Little brother, you don't know that me staying here will really harm you." The middle-aged man was about to say something when he heard a bang outside the door. The door of the clinic was kicked open, and then more than a dozen people rushed in from the outside. These people looked like ferocious fiends, holding short knives, steel pipes and other similar weapons in their hands. The bald man who led them even held a jet-black pistol in his hand. After seeing the middle-aged man on the bed, the big man sneered, "Li Zhong, why don't you run? I want to see where you can run to." Li Zhong sighed. He knew that he couldn't escape this time. He said, "I can go back with you, but I have nothing to do with this clinic and I don't know the doctors here. I hope you can let them go." The bald man shouted arrogantly, "Li Zhong, you're about to die. What qualifications do you have to negotiate with us? You're courting death if you dare to save the person we want to catch." Hearing that these people were from the Jade Gang, Qin Haodong's expression changed slightly. He said, "I don't care who you are or who he is. I only know that this is my clinic and he's my patient. You can do whatever you want outside, but as long as he's in the clinic, you're not allowed to touch him." "Boy, are you crazy? Didn't you hear that we're from the Jade Gang?" The bald man said and looked at Qin Haodong. At this time he saw Hu Shaoxian standing behind Qin Haodong. His two small eyes suddenly flashed a strange light with greed and lust. Filth became excited. "Boy, I didn't expect that there was such a beautiful woman hidden in your house. As long as you hand over this woman, I can let bygones be bygones and I can spare your life." Before Qin Haodong could speak, Hu Shaoxian swayed her sexy body and walked in front of the bald man. She said coquettishly, "Brother, what do you want me to do?" The bald man's face was full of lust. He said with a smile, "Little girl, as long as you follow me, I'll have a good life in the future. I can have anything I want." Before he could finish speaking, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest, as if he had been hit by a train. His whole body suddenly flew back more than 10 meters and hit the wall behind him with a plop. Then he began to vomit mouthfuls of blood. Hu Shaoxian slapped the bald man away and giggled, "I just want to teach you a lesson, you ignorant thing. Look at yourself in the mirror. How dare you to hit on me?" The bald man struggled to get up from the ground and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He pointed directly at Hu Shaoxian and roared angrily, kill him for me." Hearing his order, more than a dozen of his men rushed to Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian. Seeing that the two of them were alone, Li Zhongqiang tried to come over and help, but before he could take a few steps, the dozen or so people were all sent flying. Moreover, all of them had their arms broken. Their steel pipes and knives fell to the ground, and the sound of wailing could be heard. Li Zhong was completely dumbfounded. He didn't see clearly what was going on when Hu Shaoxian taught the bald man a lesson. Now he saw clearly that the two young people in front of him turned out to be hidden masters. The strength of Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian was far beyond the bald man's expectation. He came to his senses and quickly took out a pistol from his waist. But before he could raise the muzzle, his wrist had been grabbed by Qin Haodong. Then, with two cracking sounds, his two arms were abruptly broken into two pieces, and the pistol fell to the ground with a clatter. "Boy, how dare you touch me, I'm from the Jade Gang." The bald man originally wanted to say something harsh, using the name of the Jade Gang to suppress the young man in front of him. Before he finished his words, he was punched in the mouth by Qin Haodong, and his teeth fell to the ground. "I don't care what gang you're from. This is my clinic. Get out of here. This time I only broke your arms, which is good for you. If there's a next time, I'll kill you." After that, he kicked the bald man's lower abdomen, directly kicking him out of the door of the clinic. Then, he turned his head to look at the Jade Gang members who kept wailing on the ground and said in a cold voice, "Get out of here." Seeing that their leader had been subdued, these people could no longer care about anything else and scrambled out of the place. After closing the door of the clinic again, Qin Haodong turned back and said to Li Zhong, "Don't worry, as long as you're in my clinic, no one can take you away." Hu Shaoxian also said, "Yes, have a good rest here tonight and leave tomorrow after you've recovered." Looking at the two people in front of him with a complicated expression, Li Zhong hesitated for a moment, suddenly knelt on the ground and begged, "Two masters, please save my gang leader. Get up first and tell me slowly." Qin Haodong helped Li Zhong up and asked him to sit at the head of the bed. "What do you mean? Who the hell are you? Who's the gang leader you're talking about?" Li Zhong said, "I'm from the Jade Gang. My name is Li Zhong and my gang leader is Lu Hongquan." Qin Haodong asked in surprise, "Since you're from the Jade Gang, why are those people chasing you? And I heard that the leader of the Jade Gang is called Zhou Tianhu. When did Lu Hongquan come out?" Li Zhong said, "Little brother, you don't know. A year ago the leader of the Jade Gang was Lu Hongquan. Later he was killed by Zhou Tianhu, and now he's locked in a cave in the back mountain." Qin Haodong thought of something and said, "Don't worry. Tell me slowly. What's going on?" Hu Shaoxian poured a glass of water and sent it to Li Zhong. Li Zhong drank up the water and then slowly told the story. It turned out that the old leader of the Jade Gang was called Lu Hongquan, and his ancestor was a general of the expeditionary army. Although he was also the leader of the gang, he was kind and modest. Because he had no children, he felt sorry for Zhou Tianhu and his sister, so he adopted them and regarded Zhou Tianhu as his son. But Zhou Tianhu was ambitious. Instead of being grateful, he stared at the position of the gang leader and cultivated his own power with the help of Lu Hongquan's trust. Later, he found a chance to usurp the position of the gang leader, arrested Lu Hongquan, and secretly imprisoned him in a cave in the back mountain of the Black Dragon Peak. Li Zhong had always been Lu Hongquan's confidant, but he had been arranged to work undercover in the new parliament, so others didn't know him. After Zhou Tianhu took over the position of the leader of the Jade Gang, it was announced that Lu Hongquan died of illness. But Li Zhong didn't believe it, so he secretly returned to the Jade Gang and wanted to investigate it. That night, he suddenly received a message that Lu Hongquan was not dead, but was imprisoned in the Black Dragon Cave in the back mountain. He secretly went to the Black Dragon Cave and wanted to find out the truth. It was better to save Lu Hongquan. He didn't expect that the defense of the Black Dragon Cave was so tight that he was discovered as soon as he arrived there. He was seriously injured. When he saw a clinic there, he knocked on the door of the clinic and then he was saved by Qin Haodong. After listening to him, Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian looked at each other and instantly understood each other's thoughts. They were just worried that there was no suitable candidate to take over the position of the leader of the Jade Gang. If they could save Lu Hongquan, they could not only deal with Zhou Tianhu, but also quickly integrate the Jade Gang. At that time, all the problems would be solved. Thinking of this, Qin Haodong turned to Li Zhong and said, "How is the prestige of your old leader in the gang?" Li Zhong said, "The old leader is a very good person and very considerate to his subordinates, so his prestige in the gang is very high. Zhou Tianhu also used the identity of the leader's adopted son to deceive everyone, otherwise he would not be able to sit in the position of the leader. As long as you can save the old leader, he can immediately expose Zhou Qianhu's true colors and return to the position of the leader. The Jade Gang is very rich and the old leader will definitely thank you. Qin Haodong asked again, how is the old leader's feelings for Wuxia? Li Zhong said, the old leader's father is from Wuxia, and his ancestral grave is also in Wuxia. He often regrets that he can't return to Wuxia, so he has a deep feeling for the people of Wuxia. For a long time, the raw jade stones in the gang have been sold to Wuxia merchants first. Qin Haodong nodded and said, I promise you, I will help you save Lu Hankuan. Li Zhong said excitedly, great, then let's go now. Chapter 410. You can't go. Qin Haodong said, after what happened tonight, the Black Dragon Peak will be alert, which will make it more difficult for us to save people. It's already very difficult to save Lu Hankuan. Taking you with us will only increase our burden. Well, Li Zhong originally wanted to go with these two people to help and do his part, but after thinking about it, with his skills and his current injuries, he would only become a burden to the two of them. Qin Haodong said, well, you draw a map of the Black Dragon Peak for us now. We'll definitely save the old boss within 3 days. Li Zhong thought for a moment and said, well, I'll draw it for you now. After that, he took a pen and paper and quickly drew a simple map of the Black Dragon Peak and its vicinity. Although the map was very simple, the basic terrain and structure were clearly outlined, and even the location of the cave was marked. He sent the map to Qin Haodong and said, that's all I know. I don't know the specific situation in the cave. That's enough. Qin Haodong took the map and said, after we leave, your safety will no longer be guaranteed. Now we'll send you out of the town and then find a place to hide. We'll contact each other by phone in 3 days. After exchanging phone numbers, Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian closed the clinic and left with Li Zhong. They sent him out of the town and then rushed to the direction of the Black Dragon Peak. The Black Dragon Peak was not too far from the town, about a dozen miles away. Soon, Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian arrived at the location marked on the map. They stopped and did not rush forward. Hu Shaoxian said, Haodong, do you think Li Zhong is trustworthy? Could he be a bait sent by the Jade Gang to catch us? Qin Haodong said, I've thought about it, but it's not very likely. I just used mind manipulating when I talked to Li Zhong and he was telling the truth. So we can be sure that Lu Hankuan, the former boss of the Jade Gang, is not dead yet. I don't know why he has been imprisoned by Zhou Qianhu. Hu Shaoxian thought about it and felt that it was reasonable. They came to Burma secretly and Qin Haodong also changed his appearance. The Jade Gang should not know their true identities. Qin Haodong said, anyway, we know nothing about Zhou Qianhu now. It's necessary to be well prepared. As he spoke, he took out Li Zhong's map and pointed to a location near the Black Dragon Mansion. Let's go there first. If it's suitable, we can set up a formation here. If anything happens, we'll have an escape route. As they spoke, they slowly approached the Black Dragon Peak. When they were near the foot of the mountain, they saw a huge tent. There were about a dozen gunmen in the tent. They should be the guards sent by Zhou Qianhu. Not far from the tent, there was a cave about 2 meters in diameter. There were a total of 6 gunmen at the entrance of the cave. 2 of them were standing in the open with their guns, while the other 4 were hiding in the dark. After scouting out the situation, the 2 of them slowly retreated and carefully surveyed the surrounding terrain of the Black Dragon Peak. Let's do it here. I think it's a good location. Qin Haodong pointed to another mountain and said. There was also a cave at the foot of the mountain. Although it wasn't too big, the entrance of the cave was 2 meters wide and about a dozen meters deep. It was very dry inside. There was a wide open space outside the cave, which was perfect for hiding. After choosing the location, Qin Haodong took out the formation flags and began to set up the formation. After an hour, he took Hu Shaoxian to the outside of the Black Dragon Peak to observe the situation and wait for the right time. The cave on the Black Dragon Peak was brightly lit and did not look dark. The cave was about 100 meters deep and was slightly wider inside. At the end of the cave there was a cell made of steel bars. The area of the cell was about 7 or 8 square meters. It was surrounded by steel bars as thick as a child's arm. It looked very strong. Inside the cell there was a shabby wooden bed. A man was sitting on the bed. From the appearance, they could only tell that it was a man, because his thick beard and hair had covered his whole face. They couldn't tell his age or appearance. He was extremely thin and he seemed to be about 30 or 40 kilograms. The man was lying on the bed. If it weren't for the slight trembling of his beard when he breathed, they would have thought that he was a dead man. Godfather, I'm here to see you. With a shout, a young man in his 30s walked in from outside the cave, followed by 7 or 8 bodyguards. The young man was the current leader of the Jade Gang, Zhou Qianhu. The weak old man was the former leader, Lu Hongquan. He had been missing for a whole year. Everyone thought that he was dead. No one knew that he was trapped here. Lu Hongquan was still lying on the bed, motionless. Zhou Qianhu smiled at him and said, "Godfather, you don't have to pretend to be dead. I know you're still alive." Seeing that Lu Hongquan still didn't speak, Zhou Qianhu said again, "Godfather, you're going to die soon. Tell me the location of the jade mine. Do you want to take it to the coffin?" At this time Lu Hongquan finally moved. He sat up with difficulty and glanced at Zhou Qianhu through the hair in front of him. His eyes were full of deep hatred. "You heartless and unscrupulous thing. Have you forgotten who raised you?" Zhou Qianhu laughed arrogantly. When he was done he said, "Godfather, why do you say that? You see, I'm raising you now. You have food and drink here. You live alone in such a big cave with dozens of people serving you. What else do you want?" Lu Hongquan kept shaking his beard, showing his inner anger. He said, "You ungrateful wolf. Just give up." When they came to the front of the iron cell, Hu Xiaoxian's purple flash sword flashed and cut the iron lock of the cell door. She opened the cell door and shouted to the inside, "Senior Lu Hongquan, we're here to save you." Lu Hongquan, who was lying in bed, heard the movement and slowly sat up. When he saw the cell door open, he said excitedly, "Who are you? Are you really here to save me?" Hu Xiaoxian said, "We're Li Zhong's friends. Senior, let's go out and talk." "Great, Lu Hongquan can finally get out of here alive." "Zhou Qianhu, you bastard, wait for me." After saying that, he quickly walked out of the cell. But as soon as he walked out of the cell door, suddenly a cold light flashed and a long knife appeared on his neck. Qin Haodong asked coldly, "Who are you?" "Young man, what are you doing?" "I'm Lu Hongquan." "Impossible. Lu Hongquan has been locked up here for more than a year. Zhou Qianhu imprisoned him, not retired him. How could he be so energetic?" Qin Haodong directly used mind manipulating and asked again, "Tell me, who are you?" "I'm Zhang Dao, Zhou Qianhu's bodyguard." As soon as the man said this, the 1,000 blades had already pierced his throat. "Let's go. We've been fooled." Qin Haodong killed Zhang Dao and rushed out of the cave hand in hand with Hu Xiaoxian. They rushed to the entrance of the cave without any resistance, which surprised Qin Haodong. Zhou Qianhu had spent a lot of effort to set up this trap, so he should have at least installed some bombs or some gunmen in the cave. How could there be no movement at all? When he came to the entrance of the cave, his whole heart sank. He immediately found the reason why Zhou Qianhu didn't stop him inside. He saw 3 people standing in a triangle at the entrance of the cave. The one on the left was an old acquaintance. She was Yagyu Yukaim, the Japanese heaven stage ninja whom he had just separated from a few days ago. The one on the right was a black-clothed martial artist. Although he had never seen him before, he was exuding a powerful aura. In the middle was an old Taoist in a gray robe. Qin Haodong's pupils shrank when he saw him. He had reached the 2nd level of the Supreme Power realm. 3 Supreme Power Masters blocked the way. No wonder Zhou Qianhu didn't make any arrangements in the cave. Chapter 411. Qin Haodong was now at the peak of the 9th level of the covert power, barely half a step to the Supreme Power realm. Hu Xiaoxian had recently improved with the help of the spirit culturing elixir, but she was only at the 6th level of the covert power. There was no hope for the 2 of them to face the 3 Supreme Power realm masters. "Qin Haodong, what do you think? Are you satisfied with the arrangement I've made for you?" A burst of arrogant laughter was heard, and another figure flashed out. It was Zhou Qianhu, the leader of the Jade Gang. "Are you Zhou Qianhu?" Even in this situation, Qin Haodong didn't panic too much and he still looked calm. "Yes, I am Zhou Qianhu." Zhou Qianhu took 2 steps forward, looked at Qin Haodong and said fiercely, "You bullied my sister in Jiangnan City, captured 2 of my men, and destroyed my important plans. I must kill you today. It's a great honor for you to set such a big trap for me." Qin Haodong said with a faint smile, "Zhou Qianhu, I'm just curious. How did you know that I came to Burma?" Zhou Qianhu said, "In fact, it's very simple. I also have an informant in Jiangnan City. Lin's group's raw jade gemstones were in urgent need, so you would definitely come to Burma." Although you changed your appearance, Qin Haodong was not in Jiangnan City, and suddenly a young master who cured General Li's sight with traditional Chinese medicine suddenly appeared here. Anyone with a little brain could guess that this person was Qin Haodong in disguise. "I wasn't completely sure before, so I set a small trap to try. I didn't expect you to take the bait so quickly. You're really smart. No wonder you can even plot against your adoptive father." Qin Haodong said with sarcasm, "You said that Li Zhong was a trap, but I don't think he's your man. Yes, Li Zhong is the old ghost's man. After the old ghost was beaten by me, he sneaked back and wanted to save the old ghost. I knew that there was a fish that escaped the net, but I didn't do anything before. After confirming that you came to Burma, I deliberately arranged for someone to let him know that the old ghost was trapped by me in this cave. He was fooled and immediately jumped out to be the bait for me to catch you. Zhou Qinhu laughed proudly again. How about it? That's a good plan, isn't it? Isn't it a surprise? Qin Haodong nodded secretly. Although Zhou Qinhu was a scumbag, he was indeed smart. If Li Zhong was his man, Qin Haodong would have seen through him. Zhou Qinhu continued, Qin Haodong, you're going to die today. I'd like to introduce these three to you so that you can die with peace of mind. He first pointed to the man in black next to him and said, this is a famous guru in Southeast Asia, nicknamed Lung Feng, the fast saber Azura. Since I knew you were a master, I invited Mr. Lung to Burma with a lot of money, in order to cut off your head one day. Lung Dao was a famous supreme power master in Southeast Asia. He was greedy and lustful. That was why Zhou Qinhu had invited him here. He glanced at Qin Haodong and then quickly turned his eyes to Hu Shaoxian. He said arrogantly, give this woman to me and I'll leave you a whole body. Before Qin Haodong could speak, Hu Shaoxian said, stop dreaming. How dare you try to kill me with your ugly face? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? I want to throw up when I see you. Lung Dao's face suddenly changed and he was about to take action. Zhou Qinhu hurriedly said, Senior Azura, don't be angry. You can do whatever you want with this woman after we kill this gigolo boy. The swift blade Azura suppressed his anger and snorted coldly without saying another word. Zhou Qinhu pointed to Yagyu Yukaim and said, this is Miss Yagyu Yukaim, a heaven stage ninja from Neon. She's also a supreme power master. Qin Haodong smiled and looked at Yagyu Yukaim playfully. He said, you don't need to introduce her. We're very familiar with each other. I've had in-depth communication with Miss Yukaim. I know her 3 measurements very well. Seeing that Qin Haodong was making fun of her, Yagyu Yukaim said with a murderous look, damn you, I told you that I'd kill you. Qin Haodong ignored her and looked at the Taoist standing in the middle. The old Taoist's hair and beard were all white, and he seemed to be at least 100 years old. He wore a green Taoist robe and he looked like an immortal. He didn't look like someone who would help a tyrant. He couldn't understand why such an otherworldly master would come to find trouble with him. The most important thing was that the old Taoist had reached the 2nd level of the Supreme Power Realm. After all, it was extremely difficult to make further progress after reaching the Supreme Power Realm. Many people could only stay at the 1st level of the Supreme Power Realm for the rest of their lives. Similarly, the 2nd level of the Supreme Power Realm was much stronger than the 1st level of the Supreme Power Realm. He felt more threatened by the old Taoist than Lung Dao and Yagyu Yukaim combined. He said, who is this Taoist? This time, before Zhou Qinhu could speak, the old Taoist opened his eyes. There were 2 breathtaking lights flashing in his eyes. He said coldly, I'm Heisher of the Qingyi sect. Qin Haodong was stunned and asked, Heisher, aren't you the head of the Qingyi sect? Heisher said, I used to be, but now I've handed over the position to Dao Xian. Qin Haodong said, Heisher, some time ago I killed Dao Tong, the traitor of the Qingyi sect. That's helping you clean up. Even if you don't thank me, you don't have to make trouble for me, do you? Hearing Dao Tong's name, Heisher was full of killing intent. He said in a cold voice, it's because you killed Dao Tong that I'm here to kill you today. Qin Haodong said in astonishment, Taoist, are you mistaken? Dao Tong has done many evil things over the years. First, he used the ghost refining skill on ordinary people, and then he refined the 5 elements of soul-nourishing pill. Doesn't he deserve to die? Heisher said with a murderous look, it's none of your business whether Dao Tong deserves to die or not. I've lived for 100 years and I only have one son, but he was killed by you. Do you think I should kill you? Qin Haodong didn't know that when he came to Burma, Dao Xian also returned to the Qingyi sect with Dao Tong's body. After seeing Dao Tong's body, Heisher, the head of the sect, didn't show any joy. Instead, he burst into tears which confused Dao Xian. It turned out that Dao Tong was the illegitimate son of Heisher. Because of this, although Dao Tong had violated the rules of the sect, Heisher did not execute him. On the contrary, he sent Dao Xian, who had the deepest relationship with Dao Tong, to clean up the sect. It was obvious that he was indulging Dao Tong. After asking about the cause of Dao Tong's death, Heisher was so sad and indignant that he directly handed over the position of the head of the sect to Dao Xian. He chased after Qin Haodong with a sword to avenge his son. Qin Haodong said with a surprised face, you are the Taoist. How could Dao Tong be your son? Of course, He sure didn't want to explain this to him. He said, "Don't talk nonsense. You must die today." Zhou Qianhu looked at Qin Haodong playfully. At this time he was in a cat-and-mouse mentality, so he was not in a hurry to do anything. In his opinion, with the three supreme masters, Qin Haodong couldn't fly out even if he had 2 wings. "Qin Haodong, how about it? Now you understand. Let's go." After knowing the identity of the 3 people, Hu Shaoxian was desperate. She had the same opinion as Zhou Tianhu. She didn't think there was any hope of getting out alive today. She turned to look at Qin Haodong and said with deep eyes, "Little man, I regret it." Qin Haodong said, "Why, do you regret coming with me?" "No, I'm very happy to die with you." Hu Shaoxian said with watery eyes, "I regret that I didn't come here after sleeping with you. I still don't know what it's like to be a man." Lung Dao said with a lewd smile, "Little woman, I didn't expect you to be a virgin. Don't worry, I'll let you know what a man is." Qin Haodong took Hu Shaoxian's hand and said, "Little devil, don't worry. Even if the 3 of them die, we won't die." Then he suddenly turned his head and looked at Lung Dao coldly. He said, "You dare to humiliate my woman. You'll be the first to die today." Lung Dao laughed wildly and said, "You're just an ant. How dare you talk to me like that?" Qin Haodong said to Hu Shaoxian, "Let's kill this old guy together." Then he took out 2 wind talismans and put them on them. Then he took out a stack of puppet talismans and held them in his hand. He had prepared those talismans in advance when he went to Shenanjia last time. He didn't expect that they would come in handy today. "Kill!" Qin Haodong shouted and rushed to Lung Dao hand in hand with Hu Shaoxian. He raised his hand and threw all the talismans in his hand. The talismans changed in the wind and soon turned into pairs of Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian. They rushed to Lung Dao hand in hand. Lung Dao's pupils shrank. He was just a warrior and didn't know anything about magic. There were 10 pairs of Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian in front of him. He knew very well that only one pair was real, but he couldn't tell which one was real and which one was fake. But he was a guru after all. Although he couldn't tell which one was real, he had his own way. He raised his hand and pulled out the willow leaf saber on his back. The saber turned into a sky full of saber radiance and chopped at the figures in front of him. The pair at the front immediately disappeared after being cut by the saber. They turned into 2 pieces of yellow paper and slowly fell to the ground. Then the second pair, the third pair, and the 6th pair were all cut by him. They were all puppet talismans. Meanwhile, the remaining 4 pairs had passed through Lung Dao's blockade. With the help of the wind talismans, Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian's speed was more than doubled. They rushed forward. The reason why Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian chose Lung Dao as their breakthrough point was not because he had humiliated Hu Shaoxian, but because the formation they had set before was in this direction. As long as they entered the formation, they would be completely safe. Even the 3 gurus couldn't do anything to them. When he and Hu Shaoxian were rushing forward, a figure flashed in front of them. Yagyu Yukaim blocked their way with Djidjiri Yasatsuna. Seeing that Qin Haodong had escaped from him, Lung Dao held the willow leaf saber and looked frighteningly gloomy. But he didn't chase after them. All gurus had their own pride. Yagyu Yukaim wouldn't cooperate with him even if he put down his pride in the face of 2 opponents at the covert power level. "Qin Haodong, I told you, you must die." Yagyu Yukaim looked gloomy. The Djidjiri Yasatsuna in her hand moved as fast as lightning. Soon, the other 3 puppet talismans fell to the ground, leaving only Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian. "You go first. I'll deal with this woman." Qin Haodong shouted and pushed Hu Shaoxian out with both hands. The 1,000 blades in his hand flashed and rushed to Yagyu Yukaim. Chapter 412. Both of them slashed with their knives, but the gap in their cultivation was immediately revealed. After Yagyu Yukaim slashed with her knife, the surrounding air seemed to be under great pressure and made a harsh sound. Although Qin Haodong's knife was also very powerful, after it met Yagyu Yukaim's knife chi, the knife chi in the sky immediately disappeared. "Huaxia man, go to hell." After Yagyu Yukaim's Djidjiri Yasatsuna collided with Qin Haodong's 1,000 blades, a crisp sound was heard. The 1,000 blades was shaken high and almost flew out of her hand. However, Djidjiri Yasatsuna did not stop at all. It directly slashed toward Qin Haodong's face. Seeing that Qin Haodong was about to be cut in half, his body completely violated the rules and retreated backward, as if he had been greatly pulled. He narrowly escaped Yagyu Yukaim's knife. It was Hu Shaoxian, who had already reached 10 meters away, who had saved Qin Haodong. He had planned all of this before. He knew that Yagyu Yukaim's target was him, so he sent Hu Shaoxian out first. At the same time, he wrapped a piece of invisible silk around his waist. After Hu Shaoxian safely broke through, she immediately pulled the silk and dragged Qin Haodong over. Seeing that Qin Haodong had used the strange way to avoid her fatal knife, Yagyu Yukaim angrily scolded, "Despicable Wuxia man." However, like Lung Dao, she also stopped and did not chase after him, because Blackstone Taoist had already stood in front of them. Blackstone Taoist was nearly 100 years old. He was thin and had white hair, but he stood there like an insurmountable mountain, bringing great pressure to the two people. This was the position of a level 2 Supreme Power Master. In contrast, Yagyu Yukaim and Lung Dao were much weaker. Faced with Qin Haodong's cultivation, Blackstone Taoist didn't even bother to pull out the long sword on his back. He glanced at the two people and said, "Boy, you can't pass this test no matter what. Go and be buried with my son." "How do you know if you haven't tried?" Qin Haodong said as he raised his hand. Dozens of silver needles shot toward Heisher like a storm. A look of disdain flashed across Blackstone's eyes. It was as if he did not see these silver needles at all. When these silver needles arrived in front of him, it was as if they had encountered an invisible wall. They all fell down and didn't even touch his Taoist robe. Everyone present was secretly shocked. They didn't expect Blackstone's protective astral energy to be so powerful. A trace of arrogance flashed across Blackstone's face. He coldly said, "Brat, seeing that you are my junior, I will allow you 3 moves. After 3 moves I will definitely kill you." With a serious face, Qin Haodong shouted, "I don't believe it." Again. After saying that, countless beams of cold light shot towards Blackstone Taoist. There were flying knives, flying arrows and all sorts of hidden weapons. However, they were all the same. They were incapable of breaking through even Blackstone Taoist's protective astral energy. Unable to harm even a hair on his body, they all fell to the ground. Blackstone sneered and said, "You still have one last chance to make a move, then go report to Yama." "I don't believe it." Again. After saying that, Qin Haodong attacked again. 3 black objects shot towards Blackstone Taoist from the top, middle and bottom. This time it was not as powerful as the previous 2 attacks, and the speed of the objects was not fast. In everyone's view, Qin Haodong had exhausted his limited abilities. The previous 2 hidden weapons had not hurt Blackstone Taoist, and these 3 black objects could not break through Blackstone Taoist's protective astral energy either. Blackstone Taoist did not take Qin Haodong's attack seriously. He even raised his chin slightly and did not dodge. He let the 3 black objects hit him. In his view, Qin Haodong could not break through his protective astral energy at all. Seeing Blackstone Taoist being so arrogant, Qin Haodong's eyes flashed with a hint of playfulness. This was the effect he wanted. He took out a black remote control with his right hand and pressed the button on it. It turned out that he had shot out 3 pieces of C. These were the things that the killer had planted in his car before. Later he found them and put them in his storage ring. Today they came in handy. Although Blackstone Taoist had a high level of cultivation, he did not know the power of C. The 4 explosives were modern things and he did not know the power of these things. Otherwise he would not have let them get close to him. When he wanted to use his protective astral energy to shake off the 3 black objects like before, Qin Haodong had already pressed the button on the remote control in his hand. The 3 explosives made an earth-shattering noise and exploded with a bang. 3 high explosives C. The 4 explosives exploded at the same time. The power was so great that even the surrounding mountains seemed to tremble. Blackstone Taoist never dreamed that these 3 black objects could be so powerful, let alone that Qin Haodong could control them to explode. Because of his ignorance, he suffered a great loss. His whole body was blown away like a broken sack. However, the Taoist's protective astral energy was indeed strong enough. Although he was blown away dozens of meters away, his body was not blown into pieces as Qin Haodong had expected. He only spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood. The moment he pressed the button on the remote control, Qin Haodong was already lying on the ground with Hu Shaoxian. After the explosion, when he saw that Blackstone Taoist was not killed, there was a flash of regret in his eyes. But he knew that the crisis was not over yet. He quickly pulled Hu Shaoxian up and tried his best to rush toward the formation. Ah! An angry roar sounded behind him. It was Blackstone Taoist. He was completely enraged by Qin Haodong. Ever since he became a supreme power expert, he had not been so seriously injured for many years. Today he was set up by a young man. How could he not be angry? Forcibly suppressing the internal injuries, his body instantly turned into a shadow and rushed toward Qin Haodong at an unimaginable speed. No matter what, he had to kill this young man. Although Qin Haodong had used the Divine Wind Talisman, his cultivation was 2 levels lower than that of the Taoist. Although he had tried his best, the Taoist quickly approached him. The formation he had set was already in front of him, but Blackstone Taoist had also come behind him. "Boy, go to hell!" Blackstone Taoist shouted and punched at Qin Haodong's back. This punch was made by a second-level supreme power expert. Its power was earth-shattering. The surrounding air seemed to have been sucked out, making people feel great pressure. "You go first." Qin Haodong sent Hu Shaoxian into the formation again. He turned around and slashed at Blackstone Taoist with his knife. A ferocious look flashed across Blackstone Taoist's face. He did not dodge this punch and directly hit the thousand blades. At this time, his fist was covered with protective upstanding energy, which was no less than a magic weapon. After colliding with the thousand blades, there was a muffled bang. The powerful force rolled up the sand and stones in the sky, hitting the surrounding rocks and trees with a crackling sound. Although Qin Haodong had tried his best, the gap between them was too big. One was a half-step to the Supreme Power Realm, while the other was a second-level Supreme Power Realm expert. Even though the Thousand Blades was a magic weapon, it still could not do anything to Blackstone Taoist's fist. This time the Thousand Blades was swung high. At the same time, Qin Haodong's chest was hot and he almost spat out blood. "Go and be buried with my son." At this time, Qin Haodong's body was already open and he had no ability to resist. Blackstone Taoist's palm pressed on his dantian and lower abdomen. The old Taoist Blackstone was determined to take his life. Thus he did not hold back in the slightest. At the same time he was confident that this attack would not only shatter the dantian of this enemy who had killed his son, it would also shatter all of his internal organs into dust. But soon he found that after his palm hit Qin Haodong's lower abdomen, Qin Haodong immediately sent out a huge invisible force, which dissolved 90% of the power of his palm. After Qin Haodong was hit by the palm, there was a crisp sound in his ear. The black iron amulet that had been placed on his waist had been broken into pieces. This thing was bought in the antique street. It could withstand 3 attacks from a Supreme Power Realm expert. It had been smashed by Dao Tong twice before, and now there was only one last time left. However, Blackstone Taoist was already a second-level Supreme Power Realm expert, which had exceeded the tolerance range of the black iron. Fortunately, he had just been injured in the explosion, so this palm could not reach its peak strength. Otherwise, Qin Haodong would still be killed on the spot. Even so, Qin Haodong was swatted away like a fly, and he spat out an arrow of blood in mid-air. "Haodong," Hu Shaoxian let out a sad cry, and then shook her wrist, directly pulling Qin Haodong into the formation. Knowing that the crisis was not over, Qin Haodong used the last trace of his consciousness to launch the formation. In an instant the two of them disappeared. "Bastard!" Blackstone Taoist cursed angrily. He was always unwilling to see Qin Haodong die in front of him with his own eyes. "Today I'm going to cut off your head and offer it to my son." He pulled out the long sword behind him and slashed in the direction where the two of them had disappeared. But just after he slashed out with his sword, the air around him immediately formed qi, like arrows all over the sky, with a fierce murderous intent, shooting at him from all directions. These qi rays were so powerful that even Blackstone Taoist's protective upstanding qi could not stop them. Soon his Taoist robe was torn into pieces. This is a killing formation. Blackstone Taoist was also experienced and knowledgeable. He waved the long sword in his hand to resist the attack of the qi rays and quickly retreated. Fortunately, he reacted quickly. In addition, Qin Haodong was seriously injured at this time and could not control the formation. He completely relied on the formation to fight back spontaneously, so Blackstone Taoist escaped. Zhou Qinhu, Yagyu Yukaim and Lung Feng walked over together. They looked surprised and asked, "Senior Blackstone, what's going on?" Blackstone Taoist said with a livid face, "This little bastard, he actually set up a formation here in advance, and it's a powerful killing formation." "What? He can set up a formation?" Lung Feng was also shocked. He did not take Qin Haodong seriously at first, but he did not expect that the young man was not only meticulous but also had a backup plan in advance. Zhou Qinhu was an ordinary person. He had neither heard of nor understood formations. He asked, "What kind of killing formation is it? Is it very powerful?" Lung Feng said, "It's more than powerful. If people who don't know about formations enter it, they will definitely die." As he spoke, he waved the long willow leaf knife in his hand. From the tree next to him, a thick branch was cut and then he threw it forward. The moment the thick tree branch entered the range of the killing array, it immediately shattered into pieces. In less than a second, it was ground into a ball of powder by the violent killing intent. So powerful? Zhou Qinhu was shocked and hurriedly took 2 steps back, for fear that he would die in the formation. After calming down, he said to the three masters, "Masters, you are all extraordinary masters. You must be able to break this formation, right?" Chapter 413. Yagyu Yukaim said, "I'm from Neon. I only know ninjutsu and knife skills. I know nothing about arrays." Lung Dao said, "I'm just a warrior. I have dozens of ways to kill people, but I've only heard about arrays. It's the first time I've seen one, let alone broken one." After saying that, the few of them turned to look at the Blackstone Taoist. "God immeasurable." The Blackstone Taoist said, "I'm a monk. I know a little about catching ghosts and killing demons, but I've never dabbled in arrays." Seeing that no one knew how to break the array, Lung Dao said, "What should we do? We can't stay here forever." The Blackstone Taoist said, "Why not? We have food and drinks here. I don't think they can hide in the array for long. I can kill them as soon as they come out." Yagyu Yukaim said coldly, "I came to Burma for only one purpose, and that is to kill Qin Haodong. I won't leave until I cut off his head." Lung Dao thought about it and agreed. That was the only way. They had to wait for Qin Haodong and Yagyu Yukaim to come out of the array. At that moment, Zhou Tianhu said, "Guys, I actually have an idea." The few of them looked at him and asked in surprise, "What? Can you break the formation?" Zhou Tianhu laughed and said, "I don't know how to break the array, but I have guns and cannons. I don't believe I can't blow them up." Their eyes lit up. They were all warriors, so they weren't interested in firearms. At that moment, they realized that although the killing array could stop people from going in, it couldn't stop guns and cannons. Sometimes, the stupidest method was the most useful. Lung Dao said, "That's a good idea. We can give it a try." Zhou Tianhu laughed and raised his hand to call two of his men. "Get all the gunmen here and shoot at the array." Soon, dozens of gunmen gathered outside the killing array with pistols, AKs, and even 2 light machine guns and a small rocket launcher. "Shoot them. Beat him hard." Zhou Tianhu shouted fiercely. The gunners couldn't see anything and didn't understand why they were shooting at the air. However, since their master had spoken, they didn't have to pay for the bullets anyway. So, they pulled the trigger fiercely and a large number of bullets rained down on the empty space in front of them. Very soon, the sky was filled with cannon fire, and smoke rose in all directions, plowing the ground in front of them. 10 minutes later, Zhou Tianhu felt it was enough. He waved his hand to stop his men. He turned around and said to Heisher and the others, "Seniors, this should be enough, right?" Lung Feng picked up another branch and threw it at the killing formation. Just like last time, it was crushed into powder. It could be seen that although guns and cannons could hit the formation, they could not destroy it. Blackstone frowned and said, "I can sense that these two people aren't dead." Zhou Tianhu cried, "How is that possible? There are so many bullets. Even an immortal would be killed." Blackstone said, "In my opinion, Qin Haodong must have set up more than just the killing formation. There must be other hidden formations. That's why I can't see clearly what's going on inside. But I have a feeling that they aren't dead." Well, Zhou Tianhu didn't expect that such intensive fire couldn't kill Qin Haodong, which made him panic. The 3 men in front of him were all masters and they weren't afraid of Qin Haodong, but he wasn't. Once Qin Haodong came out, he would be the first one to be killed. He asked nervously, "Seniors, is there any other way?" Blackstone said, "The stupidest way is also the most useful one. We can only stay here. They don't have anything to eat or drink. I believe they will come out in a few days." Zhou Tianhu said quickly, "Well, I'll arrange for tents and food right away. Thank you for your hard work." Heisher Taoist and Yagyu Yukaim were determined to kill Qin Haodong, while Lung Dao Azura coveted Hu Xiaoxian's beauty. All 3 of them had something to ask of Qin Haodong, so it was easy for them to reach an agreement and live next to the formation. Inside the killing formation, Qin Haodong was held in Hu Xiaoxian's arms as soon as he landed. The 2 of them immediately hid in the prepared cave. She took out a blanket from her storage ring and spread it on the ground. Then she carefully put Qin Haodong on the blanket and lay down. As soon as Qin Haodong lay down, he spat out several mouthfuls of blood. His face was as pale as paper and his breathing was much weaker. "Haodong, how are you? Don't scare me," Hu Xiaoxian said nervously. Qin Haodong took out a few healing pills and popped them into his mouth, but they didn't have much of an effect on his injuries. Blackstone's palm was too powerful, and his internal organs had suffered serious internal injuries. The worst thing was that his dantian had been shattered. Without the nourishment of the greenwood genuine qi, these injuries couldn't be healed at all. Although he was still alive, he couldn't hold on for long. He took a breath and said in a weak voice, "Xiaoxian, I'm sorry. I've planned everything carefully, but I didn't expect an old Taoist to appear. I didn't expect Zhou Qianhu to invite 3 masters at the Supreme Power Realm. I'm the one who got you into trouble. It's not your fault. It's not your fault at all. Hu Shaoxian took his hand and said, How are you injured? You're the medical sage. You must be able to cure yourself, right? Qin Haodong smiled bitterly and said, The medical sage is not an immortal. My injuries are too serious. I didn't expect that the old man's cultivation had reached the 2nd level of the Supreme Power Realm. He shattered my dantian. Even an immortal can't save me. At this point, he felt incomparably desolate, and his heart was filled with reluctance. God had played a big joke on him, allowing him to find his daughter from his previous life after reincarnation and meet so many confidants. Now all of this was to be taken away from him. Feeling Qin Haodong's emotions, Shaoxian said, Young man, don't be sad. We will find a way. Qin Haodong said, Don't deceive yourself. Even I can't cure the injury. No one in this world can cure it. Speaking of this, he began to vomit blood again. Hu Shaoxian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, Young man, don't be afraid. I have a way to save you. Take this pill quickly. In a daze, Qin Haodong saw Hu Shaoxian holding a pill in her hand and putting it into his mouth. The most terrible thing was that it turned out to be a small blue pill. Although he was so seriously injured that he couldn't speak, his mind was still clear. He immediately realized what Hu Shaoxian had given him. A small blue pill. At this time she was still giving him a small blue pill. What was this little goblin going to do? Did she want to? Just thinking of this, Hu Shaoxian had already begun to take off their clothes. Soon, Qin Haodong became naked and then Hu Shaoxian. Qin Haodong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was already like this, but Hu Shaoxian still had this kind of idea. But he also knew that this woman was infatuated with him. Since there was only a little time left in his life, he would do something for her. It seemed that the 2nd leader had sensed her thoughts. Although he was now extremely weak, he still regained his vitality. In a strange feeling, he slowly lost consciousness. Hu Shaoxian stayed by Qin Haodong's side. Seeing that the small blue pill had worked, she immediately sat on it. A trace of pain flashed across her beautiful face, and then a touch of determination appeared. She murmured, Celestial Fox life sacrifice. When Qin Haodong regained consciousness again, he felt that the meridians in his body were trembling. Countless pure spiritual qi filled his whole body, from the meridians to the dantian, without any gap. When his dantian was broken, all the genuine qi in his body collapsed into all the meridians. At this time, with the nourishment of spiritual qi, the genuine qi became stronger and thicker. Finally, the meridians could not accommodate the genuine qi, and began to have a kind of tearing pain. As the Emperor Greenwood in his previous life, Qin Haodong was very familiar with this feeling. This was the process from the breaking of the dantian to the bearing essence. What was going on? Wasn't he injured by the Black Stone Taoist? Why was he suddenly going to bearing essence? But at this time he had no time to think so much. If he waited for a while, the meridians would explode because of the genuine qi, and then he would really be finished. Thinking of this, he quickly calmed his mind and guided the genuine qi in the meridians to condense in the dantian. At this moment, his dantian had been broken. After condensing the genuine qi there, it still had nowhere to go. The genuine qi behind it rushed in one after another, and the pressure became greater and greater. Finally, with a click, with a faint sound, a golden elixir the size of a grain of rice appeared in the middle of his dantian and began to rotate slowly. At the same time, an extremely comfortable feeling rose from the bottom of Qin Haodong's heart. His cultivation began to rise at the speed of a rocket. As the genuine qi continued to flow in, the golden elixir became bigger and bigger, and finally reached the size of a longan. Early stage of gold elixir. Qin Haodong was so excited that he wanted to go crazy. Not only did he not die, but he also unexpectedly formed a golden elixir. Sensing how powerful he was now, a series of rumbling sounds rang out from within his body. That was the sound of his blood rushing through his veins, causing the entire space to tremble. Every single meridian, every single blood vessel was like a surging river. Powerful. It was really powerful. This was the 2nd time he had formed a golden elixir, but he felt that it was far more powerful than the first time. At this time, the power in his body seemed endless, as if he could blow up the whole earth with one punch. He knew that this was an illusion, but after reaching the golden elixir stage, his cultivation had changed dramatically compared with the previous foundation establishment stage. Although he was only at the early stage of the golden elixir stage, it was enough to compare with the 3rd level of the supreme power realm in the martial arts world. He couldn't understand how there was so much spiritual chi for him to condense such a high-quality golden elixir on the earth, where spiritual chi was scarce. He was a cultivator, and he needed a high degree of purity of spiritual chi to transition from the foundation establishment stage to the golden elixir stage. Even spirit stones couldn't meet his needs. Otherwise, he would have broken through to the supreme power realm long ago. Finally, the golden elixir in his dantian was completely stabilized. It was like a bright pearl, blooming with soft light, but it also contained terrible power. He Shi and the others were guarding outside the formation together. After waiting for a long time, there was no movement. Zhou Qinhu asked, "Taoist, do you think Qin Haodong has just been killed?" Yagyu Yukaim said, "That's impossible. He's not dead." Zhou Qinhu said, "But if he's not dead, why is there no movement at all?" As soon as he finished speaking, the situation within the formation suddenly changed. Countless strands of spiritual energy surged into the formation. Immediately after, an extremely powerful aura erupted from within the formation. This kind of power caused even Blackstone to feel a tremble from the depths of his soul. His expression changed greatly and he said, "Oh no, someone is going to become a supreme power realm." Chapter 4:14. As an experienced man, Blackstone knew very well what the scene in front of him meant. It was the supreme power realm that his illegitimate son, Dao Tong, had never reached in his life. Lung Feng also knew that it was the scene of someone breaking through the threshold of the supreme power realm. But he said in surprise, "Taoist, it's impossible. There are only 2 young people in the formation. We just saw it." Although the boy was half a step to the supreme power realm, he was hit by Taoist. Even if he didn't die, he would be half dead. How could he break through the threshold of the supreme power realm? And that woman is only at the 6th level of the covert power. It's impossible for her to jump so many levels to the supreme power realm. He Shi frowned slightly. That was indeed the case. He was very confident in his palm strike. Although Qin Haodong had not been killed on the spot with the help of a magic treasure, it would have been difficult for him to survive, let alone break through to a new realm. As for Hu Shaoxian, her cultivation was too low. But the scene in front of them was right there. It was obviously something that could only happen when a person broke through the supreme power realm. Yagyu Yukaim said, "I don't know much about formations, but I've heard that there are many kinds of formations in Wuxia. There are trapping formations, killing formations, and illusion formations. It's probably an illusion made by the Wuxia man to deceive us." Lung Feng patted his thigh and said, "It must be so. The Wuxia boy saw that we didn't leave, so he wanted to make it look like he broke through the supreme power realm to scare us away. But he didn't think that even if he broke through, he would only be a supreme power realm master. We have 3 supreme power realm masters and a master like Taoist. How could we be scared away?" The others also thought what Lung Feng said made sense because they couldn't find any other explanation. But one thing was for sure, the 2 people in the formation were not dead. Zhou Qinhu said, "Seniors, do you want me to call the gunmen over and shoot them again?" Blackstone shook his head and said, "It's useless. They must have a way to avoid the guns. It's useless no matter how many shots you shoot unless you bomb them with cannons." Zhou Qinhu gritted his teeth and said, "If it doesn't work, I can get a cannon." Yagyu Yukaim said, "Forget it. The cannon is too lethal. We have to hide far away. Judging from the current situation, I'm afraid that as soon as we leave, the 2 of them will run away. What's the use of blowing this place to the ground?" Zhou Qinhu thought for a while and agreed that it was true. He could only wait there. While the few of them were talking, the array formation had already regained its calm. That powerful aura had disappeared, and the spiritual chi had also stabilized. Qin Haodong used to be the Emperor Greenwood, so he was very clear about the situation of the Gold Core realm. Moreover, he had a powerful spirit, so he did not need to stabilize his realm like ordinary people after the breakthrough. Now he was already at the early stage of the Gold Core realm. He sensed the condition of his body once more. The internal injuries that Blackstone had inflicted upon him had completely healed. At this moment he was filled with great power. He slowly opened his eyes and saw Hu Shaoxian beside him, weak and dispirited. Both of them were naked, and there was a pool of red blood on the white blanket under them, which looked particularly dazzling. Seeing this scene, Qin Haodong recalled what had happened before he was injured. Hu Shaoxian had given him a small blue pill. Could it be that this thing could not only heal injuries but also help him break through the bottleneck? Impossible, this was absolutely impossible. Just as he was thinking about it, Hu Shaoxian asked happily, "Little man, have you finally broken through?" She had already felt Qin Haodong's powerful aura, and her heart was full of joy. It seemed that her efforts had not been in vain. "Yes. Qin Haodong then asked, Xiaoxian, what the hell is going on? How did my injury heal? How did I break through the bottleneck? Hu Xiaoxian said with a smile, it's very simple. I gave you a small pill and then took the opportunity to have sex with you. Your injury was healed and you broke through. Although her smile was very bright and happy, there was a trace of weakness in her smile, which made people feel very sorry for her. Xiaoxian, what's wrong with you? Qin Haodong pulled Hu Xiaoxian into his arms. Although they were honest with each other at this time, there was no distracting thought in his mind. He always felt that there was something strange about this matter. He reached out and put his hand on Hu Xiaoxian's pulse. He was suddenly shocked. At this moment, Hu Xiaoxian's dantian was empty. There was no genuine qi flowing in her body, and there was even no trace of the aura of a warrior. Hu Xiaoxian had not been injured at all before, but now her genuine qi had completely disappeared, and he had recovered from his injury and broken through the bottleneck. Although he did not know how Hu Xiaoxian did it, he immediately understood what was going on. Xiaoxian, tell me, where is your genuine qi? Qin Haodong said excitedly. He knew very well the importance of cultivation for a warrior, which was even more important than life. Hu Xiaoxian smiled, put her arms around his neck and said, now I am an ordinary person, and I will rely on you to protect me in the future. Xiaoxian? Knowing that Hu Xiaoxian had sacrificed all her cultivation to help him, Qin Haodong's joy after the breakthrough disappeared in an instant. His heart was full of emotions. He was moved, there were tears, and there was love for this woman. Xiaoxian, why are you so stupid? Why did you do this? Hu Xiaoxian raised her hand and touched his cheek. She said with a smile, are you stupid? You exchanged a supreme power for a good man. What a good deal it is. Qin Haodong did not say anything. He held Hu Xiaoxian tightly in his arms. In the past, he only knew that this woman liked him, but he did not expect that she loved him to this extent. After a long time, the two slowly separated. He asked again, Xiaoxian, how did you do it? He was really curious about this. He had been in the cultivation world for 500 years and had seen all kinds of strange cultivation methods, but he had never heard of a method that could sacrifice one's cultivation to save others. Hu Xiaoxian adjusted her body to make herself more comfortable in his arms. Then she said faintly, I practice the celestial fox cultivation method, which comes from the ancient celestial fox sect. In the legend, the founder of the celestial fox sect was a member of the celestial fox clan. When it comes to the fox clan, people's first impression is that they are charming, which can confuse people's hearts. In fact, this is an illusion. The people of the celestial fox clan have always been infatuated and can give everything for their beloved. Because of this, there are two special methods in the celestial fox cultivation method. One is the celestial fox hypnosis, which is not much different from the mind-bewitching method. But once you meet an opponent with a particularly high spiritual force, you will be backfired. The consequence of the backfire is that you will fall in love with that person without hesitation. Whether the other person is old or disabled, ugly or handsome, it will not affect the result. Speaking of this, she raised her head and looked at Qin Haodong's increasingly handsome face. She said with a smile, I'm still very lucky to meet such a handsome man like you, but there are too many women. Qin Haodong kissed her slightly pale cheek gently and said, and then? He had vaguely felt that the reason why he could recover from his injury and break through the bottleneck of the supreme power realm must have something to do with the second method. Hu Xiaoxian continued, the second method is called the celestial fox life sacrifice. It is a unique sacrificial method of the celestial fox sect. It uses the fox girl as a sacrifice to heaven in exchange for a magical effect. There are many restrictions on this technique. First of all, the caster must be willing to do it. Second, the target must be the person she loves. Finally, the caster must remain chaste. Because of the harsh conditions, the effect of this method is excellent. As long as the target is still alive, he can be saved. At the same time, it can help warriors break through the bottleneck of cultivation. The reason why I want to sleep with you these days is that I covet your beauty, and I want to help you break through the bottleneck of the supreme power realm. Hu Xiaoxian said it casually, but Qin Haodong's heart was full of emotion. He knew that he would never let this woman down in his life. He said in a trembling voice, the price is your cultivation? I'm very lucky. It's like this time. Qin Haodong asked, what do you mean? Could it be that other than cultivation, other things can be sacrificed? Hu Xiaoxian said, there are 3 levels of the celestial fox life sacrifice. The first level is to sacrifice your cultivation. The second level is to sacrifice your spiritual power. The third level is to sacrifice your life. Your original body was strong enough, so I only used the first level of the method, and you have already recovered and broken through the bottleneck. So I'm lucky. Xiaoxian, Qin Haodong held Hu Xiaoxian tightly in his arms again. This woman was willing to sacrifice her life to save me. Fortunately, I recovered or I would regret it for the rest of my life. Hu Xiaoxian breathed in his ear and whispered, "How about it? Are you very touched? You must be nice to me." Qin Haodong said, "I will. I will not let you down in this life." While speaking, his eyes were already full of tears. Hu Xiaoxian touched his cheek and said, "In fact, you don't have to be sad. You can cultivate again if you lose your cultivation. It just takes a little time. Moreover, my spiritual power is still there, so I can cultivate much faster than ordinary people. You have to hurry up and improve or I will easily catch up with you." Qin Haodong did not speak, but just held her tightly in his arms. Hu Xiaoxian continued to say leisurely, "The women of the Celestial Fox sect are all like this. They can give everything for the man they love. My grandmother is the same." Qin Haodong said, "Has our grandmother also used the Celestial Fox life sacrifice?" Hu Xiaoxian smiled and was very satisfied with Qin Haodong's title. She said, "Because of the cultivation of the Celestial Fox seduction skill, the spiritual power of the women of the Celestial Fox sect is generally very strong. Because of this, the cultivation speed is also very fast. Grandma reached the half-step to the Supreme Power Realm in her 20s. But later, in order to help Grandpa, she used the Celestial Fox life sacrifice to help Grandpa break through the bottleneck of the Supreme Power Realm. Without Grandma, Grandpa would not have been able to become the current level 5 Supreme Power Realm. Later, Grandma practiced from the beginning, and now she has reached the half-step to the Supreme Power Realm again." Qin Haodong secretly sighed in his heart. It was said that fox girls were seductive, but in fact, fox girls were the most infatuated. He said in Hu Xiaoxian's ear, "Don't worry, you are luckier than Grandma. I won't let you suffer so much again." Hu Xiaoxian kissed him and said, "In fact, it's not hard at all. On the contrary, it's very happy to pay for the person I love. Moreover, it feels good to have a master like you to protect me in the future. I don't have to fight all the time." Qin Haodong smiled and said, "Your wishful thinking is going to fail. Now I will not only restore your cultivation, but also help you break through the bottleneck of the Supreme Power Realm." "What did you say?" Hu Xiaoxian looked surprised. "You'll know what I'm talking about soon," Qin Haodong said as he put Hu Xiaoxian on the blanket and then pressed on her. Chapter 4:15. The moment Qin Haodong entered, Hu Xiaoxian felt a stream of pure energy injected into her body. The genuine qi was extremely powerful like the Yangtze River. The most important thing was that it was extremely pure without any impurities. She had never seen or heard of such pure genuine qi. Even her grandfather, who had reached the 5th level of the Supreme Power Realm, might have a stronger genuine qi, but it was definitely not as pure as this. After the genuine qi entered her body, it quickly gathered in her pubic region and soon filled up her almost dry pubic region. At this time, Qin Haodong's voice sounded in her ear, "Don't just stand there. Hurry up and carry out the genuine qi according to your cultivation method." Only then did Hu Xiaoxian react. She hurriedly ran the Heavenly Fox cultivation method according to the previous route. Because the genuine qi injected by Qin Haodong was so pure that it had no property, Hu Xiaoxian ran it without any difficulty. It was no different from her own genuine qi. Soon her cultivation increased rapidly. The first level of the overt power, the second level of the overt power. About an hour later, Hu Xiaoxian's cultivation had been restored to the 6th level of the covert power, and her genuine qi was much purer than before. Although his cultivation had been restored, Qin Haodong did not mean to stop at all. The endless genuine qi was still injected into Hu Xiaoxian's body. Thinking of what Qin Haodong had said before, that he would help her cross the threshold and reach the Supreme Power Realm, Hu Xiaoxian's heart was moved. She continued to run the genuine qi to improve her cultivation. What Qin Haodong was using was called double cultivation initiation, which could help an ordinary person quickly cross the foundation realm and reach the Supreme Power Realm. However, the purity of his genuine qi was extremely high, so he could not use it before he condensed the golden elixir. At this moment, the golden elixir in his pubic region was slowly rotating, and the pure genuine qi helped Hu Xiaoxian break through to a higher level. The 8th level of the covert power, the 9th level of the covert power. Hu Xiaoxian also realized that it was a critical moment. She ran the genuine qi in her body and tried her best to break through the bottleneck of the Supreme Power Realm. After a long time, there was a loud bang in her mind. Then the genuine qi in her pubic region seemed to explode, and it endlessly impacted the meridians in her body. "Supreme Power Realm, I really reached the Supreme Power Realm?" Hu Xiaoxian cheered in her heart. She did not expect that the little man could bring her such a surprise. In the blink of an eye, he not only recovered his cultivation but also became a supreme power. However, her joy soon disappeared, because the true qi in her body did not have the slightest intention of staying. It had already filled up all of her meridians, and the true qi in her dantian was still growing, and it looked like her dantian was about to burst. She wanted to ask Qin Haodong to stop, but she couldn't even open her mouth to make a sound. Finally, his dantian was no longer able to contain this pure true energy, and it exploded with a boom. It's over. This is the end. He had just recovered his cultivation, but now he has become an ordinary person again, a cripple who can no longer cultivate. With this thought, Hu Shaoxian fainted and woke up again after a long time. After regaining consciousness, the first thing she did was to look inside her dantian. Sure enough, her dantian had been completely destroyed. Its original position was empty, without the slightest trace of spiritual qi. Wait, what is this? Hu Shaoxian suddenly found that there was a transparent bead in the original position of her dantian. This bead was even more dazzling than the most dazzling pearl, releasing a soft light. As she regained her consciousness, the bead began to slowly rotate, and streams of incomparably pure innate qi instantly filled her body. It was much faster than the innate qi in her dantian, and it was also much stronger. At this moment, her entire body was filled with explosive power. At this time, Qin Haodong's voice sounded in her ears again. Don't be nervous, this is the golden elixir. Hu Shaoxian opened her eyes. After feeling her strength, she asked in surprise, what is the golden elixir? The golden elixir is a realm of cultivation. As Qin Haodong spoke, he told Hu Shaoxian the story of how he was brought to the cultivation world by his master and how he was reincarnated. For such a woman who was willing to sacrifice her life for him, there was no need for him to hide anything. After telling the story of his rebirth, he said, the reason why ordinary supreme power masters can't form the golden elixir is because their genuine qi is not pure enough. After forming the golden elixir, their cultivation is much stronger than that of the supreme power masters of the same period. The early stage of the golden elixir is enough to be comparable to the third level of the supreme power realm. Hu Shaoxian was amazed and said, no wonder I feel that you are like an omnipotent old monster. It turns out that you are really an old monster. Qin Haodong reached out to lift her chin and said with a smile, little lady, do you regret it? But it's too late now. Yes, I do. Hu Shaoxian regained her little foxy smile, I regret that I didn't push you down earlier. Otherwise, we two masters of the golden elixir stage would not be afraid of the three guys outside, and we would not be beaten like this. Qin Haodong said, now we can go out and settle accounts with them. Hu Shaoxian said, wait a minute, I have something important to do. Qin Haodong asked in surprise, what is it? Hu Shaoxian smiled slyly and said, it's happened twice. The first time was to heal you, and the second time was when you helped me improve my cultivation. I still don't know what it feels like. Isn't it too much of a loss? Now I want to taste it. After that, she jumped over and pushed Qin Haodong down again. Outside the formation, Heisher and the others had just rested for a while. Soon they were surprised to find that the scene of breaking through the bottleneck of the supreme power realm appeared again. He stood up suddenly and said, what's going on? Did someone break through again? How is that possible? There are only two of them. Did they both break through to the supreme power realm? Lung Dao said, Taoist priest, don't be nervous. I told you that this was an illusion created by that guy to scare us. Seeing that we couldn't scare away a supreme power master, we made another one. It's really ridiculous. We've been in Jianghu for many years. How can we be fooled by his little tricks? In other words, even if they have two supreme power masters, we have three. Taoist priest, you've reached the second level of the supreme power realm. How can a little master who has just broken through be compared to you? Heisher thought what he said made sense, but he didn't know why he felt uneasy. After a while, the scene in front of them disappeared and the formation became quiet again. They waited for a full hour, but there was no more movement. Lung Dao said, I knew that guy must be playing tricks to scare us. Now he doesn't even dare to show his face since we didn't fall for it. As soon as he said that, the scene in front of him changed. Two figures walked out of the formation hand in hand. It was Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian. Qin Haodong looked energetic. Obviously, his injury had been healed, but his cultivation was still half a step to the supreme power realm. Hu Shaoxian was the same. She was still at the 6th level of the covert power, but her temperament had changed a lot. Her cheeks were flushed, which added the charm of a mature woman. She looked even more enchanting. It was Qin Haodong's idea to hide his cultivation. If they both showed the strength of the 3rd level of the supreme power realm, the three people in front of them would run away before they could do anything. It was not easy to catch a supreme power expert who was running away. Once he ran away, there would be trouble in the future. Lung Feng didn't know about this. He laughed arrogantly when he saw the two's strength. Am I right? Neither of them has broken through. What they did just now was a trick. Lung Feng laughed arrogantly. Then he looked at Hu Shaoxian again. It was as if he had met a magnet. He didn't want to move his eyes away. They had only been apart for a few hours, but this woman had become even more beautiful and charming. It was as if she could hook people's souls out of their bodies. He took 2 steps forward and stood in front of them, saying, "Little girl, you can't always hide. You'll have to sleep with me sooner or later. As for this useless toy boy, I'll kill him for you now." After saying that, he pulled out the willow knife from his back and slashed at Qin Haodong. His eyes were still fixed on Hu Xiaoxian's beautiful face. He was a supreme power expert and was famous for his fast knife. That was why he was called Lung Dao. Even though he didn't use his full strength, his knife was still as fast as lightning. He slashed at Qin Haodong's face at an extremely fast speed. Qin Haodong sneered. He stretched out his right hand and the 1,000 blades suddenly appeared in his palm. Then he also slashed at Lung Dao. Compared with Lung Dao's willow knife, Qin Haodong's knife was faster, fiercer and sharper. The huge pressure seemed to make the surrounding space tremble. My God, how can he be so strong? At this time, Lung Dao realized that something was wrong. He was so scared that his legs turned to jelly. The young man in front of him had not only entered the ranks of supreme power experts, but was also far more powerful than the first level of the supreme power realm. It seemed that the scene just now was not a lie. The strength he showed was half a step to the supreme power realm. He was pretending to be weak to eat a tiger. In the face of such a sharp knife, Lung Dao completely lost the courage to fight. He turned around and wanted to run, but it was too late. Before the 1,000 blades touched the willow knife, the powerful knife light had already cut the willow knife into 2 pieces. Then Lung Dao was cut into 2 halves. Blood splashed everywhere. Everything happened too fast. Before others could react, Lung Dao had been completely cut into 2. He had completely become a dead Azura. He Shi's pupils shrank. Although Lung Dao was careless, he was afraid that even he couldn't kill a supreme power expert with 1 knife. Yagi Yukaim was also shocked. She pulled out the Djigiri Yasatsuna from her back and was on guard. Zhou Tianhu was the worst. Although Qin Haodong's powerful knife chi was not aimed at him, he was still scared and almost wet his pants. He Shi hesitated. It was easy to kill Qin Haodong to avenge his son, but he didn't expect that Qin Haodong would escape and become so powerful. Judging from the knife just now, Qin Haodong's cultivation seemed to be higher than his. As the saying goes, the older you are, the more afraid you are of death. Although he had lived for nearly 100 years, he still didn't want to live enough. Now he was afraid and even wanted to retreat. At this time Yagi Yukaim came to him and whispered, "Taoist, let's join hands." He Shi thought for a moment and finally nodded. Although Qin Haodong's strength was strong, he was no match for the 2 supreme power experts. Moreover, he was a 2nd-level supreme power master. Even if he couldn't defeat Qin Haodong, he could escape. Thinking of this, he pulled out the sword from his back and winked at Yagi Yukaim. The 2 of them rushed to Qin Haodong together. This time, He Shi completely stopped looking down on Qin Haodong. The long sword in his hand was like a dragon and a snake, stabbing at Qin Haodong's heart like lightning. But when he stabbed with his sword with all his strength, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his back. Then, the tip of a knife came out of his chest. Chapter 416. He Shi knelt on the ground with a plop. The long sword in his hand was leaning on the ground, and there was a trace of red blood at the corner of his mouth. He didn't need to look back to know who did it. Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian didn't move in front of him. Only Yagi Yukaim could stab him. Originally He Shi had a good plan. He would fight with Qin Haodong. If he couldn't beat Qin Haodong, he could escape. He was a 2nd-level supreme power master, so no one could stop him if he wanted to escape. But he never expected that he would be stabbed in the back by his own people before they started fighting. He leaned on the long sword and turned his head with difficulty. He looked at Yagi Yukaim and asked, "Why?" Yagi Yukaim didn't even look at him. She withdrew her Djigiri Yasatsuna, came to Qin Haodong, bowed and said, "Master." "Master?" He Shi couldn't believe his ears. After fighting for a long time, it turned out that they were on the same side. He looked like a fool. He rushed to the front but was stabbed in the back. But it was too late now. Yagi Yukaim's knife was extremely fierce, and it directly pierced his heart. He Shi fell to the ground with a plop. His eyes were wide open and he died with a grievance. Not only him but also Hu Shaoxian was surprised. When did Yagyu Yukaim become Qin Haodong's servant? Since she was a servant, why did she attack them before? Qin Haodong looked extremely indifferent and said, "Get up. Let's get rid of these people first." "Okay, master. You can rest here. They are all in Yukaim's hands." Yagyu Yukaim stood up and turned to look at Zhou Qianhu and his men who were running away. She raised her hand and countless maple darts shot forward like raindrops. As a heavenly stage ninja, her hidden weapons never missed. Except for Zhou Qianhu, who was shot in the legs and fell to the ground, all the other gunmen were killed by one dart. Zhou Qianhu was not reconciled. As soon as he took out the pistol from his waist, he felt a tingling pain in his wrist. Yagyu Yukaim stepped on his feet with her wooden clogs. After kicking away Zhou Qianhu's pistol, Yagyu Yukaim grabbed his collar and carried him in front of Qin Haodong like grabbing a chicken. Then she said respectfully, "I've caught Zhou Qianhu. Master, you can do whatever you want with him." Zhou Qianhu had tried his best to invite the three Supreme Power Masters to set up this trap. He had never dreamed that things would turn out like this. Now Leng Dao and He Shi were dead, and Yagyu Yukaim had become Qin Haodong's servant. He had no capital to resist. "Please let me go. I can give you a lot of money." Qin Haodong looked at him coldly and said, "I heard that your ancestors were also from Wuxia, but after taking control of the White Wolf gang, you sold drugs to Wuxia. Lu Hankuan pitied you too, so he adopted you too. But in the end you bite the hand that feeds you. I really can't think of a reason to let an ingrate like you go. Lu Hankuan, right? Lu Hankuan is still in my hands?" Zhou Qianhu shouted as if he had grasped a life-saving straw. "If you don't let me go, you can't find Lu Hankuan at all. You will definitely die." As soon as he finished speaking, Yagyu Yukaim whispered, "Master, I made a mark on Lu Hankuan's body. I can take you to him." Seeing that his last hope was gone, Zhou Qianhu suddenly reached out, took out a small pistol from under his armpit, and shot it at Qin Haodong. As soon as he raised his hand, a cold knife chi crossed his neck. Yagyu Yukaim's Dejijiri Yasatsuna easily cut off his head. After killing Zhou Qianhu, she saw another figure coming from afar. Yagyu Yukaim looked serious and held the Dejijiri Yasatsuna again. Qin Haodong said, "Don't do it. He's one of us." The figure came from afar and soon came to Qin Haodong. It was Li Zhong who had been treated last night. It turned out that when Qin Haodong came out of the formation, he had already called Li Zhong and asked him to hurry to the Black Dragon Peak. Li Zhong was shocked to see Zhou Qianhu's head and the corpses all over the ground. He thought that no matter how powerful Qin Haodong was, it would be good if he could secretly save Lu Hankuan. He didn't expect that Qin Haodong could kill Zhou Qianhu directly. He looked around and didn't see Lu Hankuan. He asked nervously, "Dr. Tang, where is our boss?" Qin Haodong waved his hand and said to Yagyu Yukaim, "Take Li Zhong to save Lu Hankuan." Yagyu Yukaim nodded and took Li Zhong into the cave again. It turned out that there was a secret door in the depths of the cave. Zhou Qianhu hid Lu Hankuan there in advance. When Lu Hankuan was brought out of the cave again, it was already evening. Looking at the setting sun in the sky, the once big boss burst into tears. He had been imprisoned by Zhou Qianhu for a whole year and had never seen the sun. Li Zhong supported Lu Hankuan, who was already extremely weak, and said, "Boss, this is Dr. Tang and Miss Hu. They killed Zhou Qianhu and saved you." Lu Hankuan knelt on the ground and said, "You too, thank you so much. My life is yours from now on." Qin Haodong said, "Boss Lu, you're welcome. Let's talk about other things later. I'll help you take care of your body first." Then he found a clean and flat place for Lu Hankuan to lie down. First he gave him a physique-improving pill. Then he took out the silver needles to help him relax his muscles and promote blood circulation. It was to adjust his body that had been exhausted. After forming the golden elixir, Qin Haodong's green wood genuine qi was much purer than before. Coupled with the effect of the physique-improving pill, Lu Hankuan soon seemed to be a different person. His whole body was full of vitality. "Magic doctor, you're really a magic doctor." Lu Hankuan was full of strength. He had never felt so good. Suddenly, they were surprised to find that the old boss Lu Hankuan suddenly appeared in front of them, accompanied by Li Zhong and a Japanese woman. Those who were originally loyal to Lu Hankuan were suddenly surprised and happy. Some people's expressions changed greatly. They were all the people who had been trained by Zhou Qianhu in the past year. Lu Hankuan sat in the position of the boss. After glancing around coldly, he said, "From today on, I, Lu Hankuan, will be the boss of the Jade Gang again." After a short silence, a bearded man jumped out and shouted, "Lu Hankuan, everyone knows that the boss of the Jade Gang is Zhou Qianhu. Who do you think you are?" He was Zhou Laoqi, Zhou Tianhu's confidant. Even though Lu Hankuan used to be the old boss, he didn't care about him at all. Now the Jade Gang was Zhou Tianhu's world. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly felt a cold light flash in front of him. Then his head flew into the air and blood spilled on the ground. It was Yagyu Yukaim who cut off Zhou Laoqi's head. She returned to Lu Hankuan's back as if she had done nothing. This move shocked all the people present, including Lu Hankuan. They didn't expect that the man sent by Qin Haodong would be so powerful. He had been in Jianghu for so many years, but he had never seen such a terrible warrior. This move was so fast that it made people tremble in fear. But after all, he was the boss of the gang. He quickly calmed down and looked at the audience again. He said, "Who else is not convinced? Lu Hankuan, don't think that you're great with a helper. No matter how powerful she is, can she be more powerful than a gun?" With a loud shout, 4 or 5 people reached for their pistols from their waists. These people were also Zhou Tianhu's loyal subordinates. But before they raised their pistols, they felt cold in their throats. Suddenly, there was a maple dart on their necks. In such a narrow space, they had no chance to use their guns in front of a heaven stage ninja. At this time, everyone realized the horror of this neon woman. This kind of skill was not something they could fight against at all. Lu Hankuan waved his hand, and someone brought a tray from the side. Zhou Tianhu's head was on the tray. Even though these people were gangsters who lived on the edge of a knife, they couldn't help but feel numb when they saw this scene. Especially Zhou Tianhu and his men, they completely lost the courage to resist. Lu Hankuan said coldly, "Who else is against it?" Chapter 417. At this point, no one dared to stand up against him. "We support Boss Lu. Long live Boss Lu." Zhou Tianhu deserved it. He deserved to die. Led by Lu Hankuan's supporters, the voices supporting Lu Hankuan and Zhou Tianhu rang out at the scene. By now, the Jade Gang had been preliminarily integrated. Then, with the help of Yagyu Yukaim, Lu Hankuan quickly eliminated the remaining forces of Zhou Tianhu. Near midnight, he had completely controlled the Jade Gang. Looking at everything in front of him, Lu Hankuan felt like he was dreaming. A few hours ago, he was still a prisoner in the cave. A few hours later, he became the supreme boss of the Jade Gang in the blink of an eye. All of this was given by the young man from Wuxia. If it weren't for Qin Haodong, his body would never have recovered so quickly. If it weren't for Qin Haodong killing Zhou Tianhu, it would never have been so easy to frighten the Jade Gang. If it weren't for Qin Haodong sending Yagyu Yukaim, the process of regaining control of the Jade Gang would never have been so smooth. Thinking of this, he said to Li Zhong, "From today on, Dr. Qin is the supreme guest of our Jade Gang. If anyone dares to disrespect Dr. Qin, he will be punished immediately according to the rules of the gang." "Yes, boss. I'll convey it now." Li Zhong was also full of gratitude and awe for Qin Haodong. He immediately conveyed Lu Hankuan's order to everyone in the Jade Gang. After Qin Haodong and Qin Haodong returned to the Tang Sect clinic, Hu Shaoxian prepared a sumptuous dinner and they had a good meal. Then she pulled Qin Haodong to the bed, saying that she wanted to thank him for improving her cultivation. As a result, it took her 2 or 3 hours to thank him. After a series of battles, Hu Shaoxian lay in Qin Haodong's arms. She stretched out her white and tender fingers and drew circles on his chest. She said coquettishly, "It's so good to have sex. No wonder so many people like it. In the future you have to have sex with me 8 or 10 times a day." 8 or 10 times. Qin Haodong was speechless. According to this frequency, he was afraid that he would be squeezed dry with the soup of 10 penises as a snack. "Alright, you've thanked enough. Let's go to the White Wolf Gang and get down to business." Hu Shaoxian said, "No, you haven't told me what happened to that neon woman. When did you start playing the master and servant game again?" Knowing that she would ask sooner or later, Qin Haodong directly told her what had happened. It turned out that when he was in Jiangnan last time, he had a headache about how to deal with Yagyu Yukaim. After all, they had slept together, so he couldn't do it. But if he didn't kill him, he wouldn't be able to feel at ease leaving such a grandmaster-level enemy outside. Later on, he thought of a way. When he was in the cultivation world, he once obtained a master-servant contract from an ancient sect. As long as he completed this contract, the other party would regard him as his master, completely obey his orders and would never betray him. With his powerful spirit, he had completed the master-servant contract with Yagyu Yukaim. From then on, Yagyu Yukaim had become his servant. "Little man, you're really cunning." Hu Shaoxian put her arms around his neck and said, "Doesn't that mean that Yagyu Shinji spent 4 billion yuan to buy Yagyu Yukaim back for free? In fact, Yagyu Yukaim was already your servant at that time?" Qin Haodong smiled and said, yes, but no one knows this secret at all, so I ordered Yagyu Yukime to continue acting. Hu Shaoxian asked again, but why did Yagyu Yukime participate in the siege of Zhou Qianhu? Why did she attack us? Qin Haodong said, Yagyu Yukime once told me that Zhou Qianhu invited her to deal with me, but I didn't pay much attention to it, so I asked her to come directly to Burma. I thought that with Yagyu Yukime there and the two of us, there would be no danger in any case. No one expected that Zhou Qianhu would invite 3 grandmasters at once, including a master like the Blackstone Taoist. When we were at the entrance of the cave, Yagyu Yukime used a secret method to ask me if I wanted her to do it. I thought about it at that time. With the Blackstone Taoist there, even if Yagyu Yukime stood on our side, it would be useless, so I asked her to continue acting. And when we were breaking through, if Yagyu Yukime hadn't let us go, it would not have been so easy. Maybe we would have died in the hands of the Blackstone Taoist. It turns out that it was right to let Yagyu Yukime go undercover. Otherwise it would not have been so easy to kill the Blackstone Taoist. It is very likely that he would have run away. Little man, you're so cunning. You did so much behind my back. Hu Shaoxian hugged Qin Haodong and pressed her sexy body tightly against him. She said in a sweet voice, do you want me to express my admiration again? Qin Haodong quickly held her down and said, don't make trouble. We still have business to do. Hu Shaoxian said with a smile, now that you have a master at the supreme power level as your servant, are you going to use the double cultivation initiation technique to help her improve her cultivation? Qin Haodong said, it's not that simple. What do you think the double cultivation initiation technique is? What? Are you not harmonious when you're together? Well, it's not a matter of disharmony. Qin Haodong explained, the double cultivation initiation technique is a unique secret method. The conditions for using it are very harsh. There must be absolute trust between the two people. The one who is being used must completely let go of his body and mind. Otherwise, the slightest mistake will cause both of them to be possessed by the devil. In addition, it must be guaranteed that there is no genuine qi in the dantian of the one being used. Otherwise, it will be rejected by the genuine qi that is poured into it, and it will also be possessed by the devil. In order to save me, you used up all the genuine qi in your body so that you could use the double cultivation initiation technique. Yagyu Yukime can't do that. She already has a very high cultivation. She can use the double cultivation initiation technique, but it can't achieve the effect of the double cultivation initiation technique. He originally wanted to use the double cultivation initiation technique on Lin Momo after forming the gold core. He didn't expect that Hu Shaoxian would become the first beneficiary. Double cultivation? Hu Shaoxian blinked her beautiful big eyes and said, does that mean that as long as any woman has sex with you in the future, her cultivation will be improved? Well, as long as I use the secret method of double cultivation, it should be like this, Hu Shaoxian said with a smile, then you'll become a treasure. You're even more seductive than Tang Monk. There will be a lot of women rushing to have sex with you. No, I have to give priority to getting a membership first and then get a monthly package. Qin Haodong patted her smooth back and said, well, hurry up and get up. We have to hurry to the White Wolf Gang. In the headquarters of the White Wolf Gang, a middle-aged man wearing glasses was slowly smoking a cigar. He was the current leader of the White Wolf Gang, Cobra Ma Kuei. Next to him sat a thin man. This man was Ma Kuei's advisor, Yen Xiaolu. Ma Kuei took a puff of his cigarette and asked, how's the preparation for the Hong Kong Triad? Yen Xiaolu said, don't worry, boss. It's ready for a long time. It's just 1 ton. We can pay and get the goods later. Ma Kuei nodded and said, well done. This is a big deal and the first deal with the Triad must be done well. Yen Xiaolu said, boss, a ton of goods only sold for 100 million US dollars. Isn't this price a little low? Ma Kuei said, recently the drug control in Wuxia has been particularly strict. We can't send it into Wuxia with our channels. We can only transfer it through the Triad. In this way the cost is naturally high. It's normal for the price to fall a little. But anyway, this thing is also profitable. After all, we can still make a lot of money. Boss, you're far-sighted. Yen Xiaolu thought for a moment and whispered in Ma Kuei's ear, boss, it's not easy for us to make money. Isn't it a little too much to give half of it to Zhou Qianhu? Ma Kuei had just put the cigar in his hand to his mouth, but he immediately stopped when he heard what Yen Xiaolu said. He said with a gloomy face, how dare you say that? Are you crazy? Yen Xiaolu shrank his neck and then said, boss, don't get me wrong. I don't mean anything else. I just feel that it's unfair for you. You're also the boss. Why does Zhou Qianhu have to yell at you? He was Ma Kuei's confidant. Seeing that there was no one around, Ma Kuei said, "Don't say that in the future. Without Zhou Qianhu, I can't be the boss of the White Wolf gang. And that guy is very cruel. We can't afford to offend him." Yin Xiaolu said, "I just think that you're 100 times better than Zhou Qianhu. There's no need to listen to his command." Ma Kuei waved his hand and said, "Forget it. Don't say that again. At least for now we're not as strong as Zhou Qianhu." While they were talking, a young henchman with blonde hair ran in and said breathlessly, "Gang leader, bad news? Something big has happened." "It's not a big deal. Why are you so flustered?" Ma Kuei glared at the henchman and said, "Tell me what happened." The henchman gasped and said, "Just now there was news from the Jade Gang that Zhou Qianhu was killed. The old boss, Lu Hongquan, regained control of the Jade Gang." "What? Zhou Qianhu was killed?" Hearing the news, Ma Kuei was also shocked. He suddenly sat up from the sofa, threw the cigar in his hand into the ashtray next to him, and asked again, "Are you sure it's true?" "It's true." Lu Hongquan cut off Zhou Qianhu's head. Everyone saw it clearly. Zhou Qianhu is dead. Ma Kuei was surprised and confused. He seemed to be at a loss. He was Zhou Qianhu's puppet, so he knew Zhou Qianhu's schemes well. He didn't expect that such a person would be beheaded. After a moment, he looked back at the henchman and asked, "Do you know who killed Zhou Qianhu?" He knew how powerful the Jade Gang was. He couldn't think of anyone in Burma who could cut off Zhou Qianhu's head so easily. The henchman said, "I'm not sure, but the old boss, Lu Hongquan, suddenly came back. Besides Li Zhong, there was also a very terrible neon woman with him. I heard that she was a goddess of slaughter. Almost all the people who were loyal to Zhou Qianhu were killed by her." Lu Hongquan completely controlled the Jade Gang. Ma Kuei waved his hand and motioned the henchman to leave first. Then he pondered. At that time, Yin Xiaolu came to Ma Kuei and said excitedly, "Boss, what are you thinking about? It's a great thing for us." Seeing that Ma Kuei was still in a daze, he continued, "You see, Zhou Qianhu is dead. Our White Wolf gang has completely broken up with the Jade Gang. All the money we make in the future is our own. We don't have to pay half of it to Zhou Qianhu anymore." Chapter 418. Ma Kuei had just been shocked by Zhou Qianhu's death. He didn't come to his senses for a while. Only then did he realize that Zhou Qianhu's death was really good news for him. He would no longer be controlled by Zhou Qianhu. He was no longer a puppet, but the real leader of the White Wolf gang. Yin Xiaolu continued to say, "Boss, we have money, people and guns in our gang. After this internal fight, the Jade Gang will be greatly weakened. Lu Hongquan is old and dim-sighted. He can't compare with us at all. In the future, the Golden Triangle will be your world." "You're right. Follow me in the future. I won't treat you badly." Ma Kuei patted Yin Xiaolu on the shoulder and laughed proudly. From today on he would no longer be a puppet, but the real leader of the White Wolf gang. Yin Xiaolu said with a flattering face, "Boss, it's time for us to trade with the Triad in 2 hours. When we get the money, it will all belong to our White Wolf gang." "You're right. This will be the first money we'll make independently." Speaking of the coming deal, Ma Kuei calmed down a lot. "You immediately asked the brothers to get ready and bring good guys. I heard that the Triad is also a big gang in Hong Kong. Don't let them cheat us." Yin Xiaolu said, "Don't worry, gang leader. This is Burma, our home ground. The Triad will have to bow down to us even if they are dragons and tigers." Ma Kuei nodded with satisfaction and said, "Tell the brothers that as long as this deal is done, I will reward them. I thank you on their behalf." Yin Xiaolu said, "Boss, I'm going to see those guys now. Tell them to be alert and don't lose the goods." After that, he walked out of the hall and walked to the warehouse in the back. Outside the hall, 2 black shadows were clinging to the wall like geckos. It was Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian. They had been there for a while and clearly heard the conversation between Ma Kuei and others. Hu Shaoxian asked in a low voice, "Little man, when are we going to do it?" "Don't worry." Qin Haodong came to the White Wolf gang. He originally wanted to kill Ma Kuei and others quickly. After listening to their conversation, he changed his mind because the Triad was coming soon. "Since they're about to make a deal, let's play a game with them." Hu Shaoxian asked in confusion, "What do you want to do?" "Follow me first. You'll know later." After Qin Haodong said that, he took Hu Shaoxian and left the White Wolf gang station and returned to the position. Half an hour later, they returned together and came to the warehouse where the White Wolf gang stored drugs. At this time, Yin Xiaolu was lecturing the people of the White Wolf gang who were counting the weapons. "Keep a close eye on the weapons in your hands." The gang leader said that everyone will be heavily rewarded if the deal is done. In front of the warehouse, There were more than 10 armed gunmen guarding the place. The security was very tight. However, this kind of defense was of no use to Qin Haodong. He took out the formation flags and set up an illusion formation. Then he walked in with Hu Shaoxian. Neatly arranged woven bags were stacked in the storeroom, all of which were filled with drugs. Altogether, there was more than a ton of them. In the past, when he saw the news about drugs on TV, it was calculated by the number of grams. Now that he saw so many at once, it was really shocking. These damn things, how many families will be ruined by sending so many drugs into Wuxia? Qin Haodong cursed angrily. Then he thought of something and put all the drugs in front of him into the storage ring. Soon, the woven bags reappeared in the storeroom, but the things inside had been replaced with the flour he had just bought. After doing all this, the two of them left the storeroom and waited for the trading time between the White Wolf Gang and the Triad. An hour later, the people of the White Wolf Gang began to load the drugs into 2 pickup trucks. Together with more than a dozen jeeps created by others, they drove to the suburbs together. Because the road conditions in Burma were extremely bad, even the off-road vehicles could only reach 60 or 70 miles per hour at most. Qin Haodong was far behind these cars and was not afraid of losing them. After about half an hour, the people of the White Wolf Gang came to an open field. The terrain was flat and there were no trees around it. There was no need to worry about the other party setting up an ambush. It was the perfect place for trading. After arriving at the destination, Ma Kuei asked his men to park the car and wait for the Triad to come over to trade. Qin Haodong and Ma Kuei hid in the darkness and set up a new magic circle here. As soon as all this was done, a beam of light lit up in the distance, and then more than a dozen off-road vehicles drove over. It was the Triad who came to trade. After the vehicles were parked, 40 or 50 gunmen jumped out of the vehicles, armed with live ammunition. Behind them, 5 people carried 5 huge suitcases which looked extremely heavy. The leader of the Triad was a young man in his 30s with a long scar on his face, which made him look extremely ferocious. He was Zhao Chong, the vice president of the Triad. He was nicknamed Mad Dog in the underworld. When the people of both sides arrived, the venue was as bright as day under the lights of more than 20 off-road vehicles. Ma Kuei took a few steps forward, cupped his hands to Zhao Chong and said, "You must be President Zhao. Nice to meet you." Zhao Chong said, "Boss Ma, this is the first time that our two gangs have made a deal. Have you brought the goods?" Ma Kuei said, "Of course I have. A whole ton of good goods." Zhao Chong said, "As usual, we will inspect the goods first. Don't worry. Only the Golden Triangle has the best drugs in the world, and our White Wolf Gang has the purest goods in the Golden Triangle." Ma Kuei was not worried about his goods. With a wave of his hand, Yen Xiaolu sent the sample to Zhao Chong for inspection. Zhao Chong took the sample sent by Xiaolu, picked it up with his fingernail, put it in his nostrils and sniffed it hard. He nodded and said, "The goods are good. They are really pure." Ma Kuei said proudly, "Of course our White Wolf Gang is very sincere. I hope we can continue to cooperate with the Triad in the future." Zhao Chong said, "Boss Ma, you have a good eye. Now the investigation in Huaxia is getting stricter and stricter. Looking at the whole underworld, only our Triad has the strength to send this thing into Huaxia. Other gangs can't do it. I hope we can cooperate happily in the future." Ma Kuei said, "Boss Zhao, did you bring the money?" Zhao Chong waved his hand and several people behind him brought the 5 large suitcases and placed them on the ground. "Boss Ma, the rule in our industry is that you get the money and you get the goods. President Zhao is a straightforward person." Ma Kuei nodded and asked his men to send the woven bags full of drugs. The two sides traded on the spot. Soon Ma Kuei's men brought the 5 large suitcases, and Zhao Chong's men moved all the woven bags to their side. Yen Xiaolu pulled a suitcase and opened the zipper. He was immediately dumbfounded and shouted, "Boss, the money is not right." Ma Kuei immediately looked at it and saw that although the leather bag was full of money, it was not US dollars at all, but full of ghost money. Yen Xiaolu opened 2 suitcases in succession. They were exactly the same, all of them were ghost money. Ma Kuei's face immediately darkened, and his eyes flashed fiercely. Using ghost money to buy drugs, it was obvious that Ma Kuei wanted to cheat others. He did not expect that the Three River Gang in Burma would have such courage. It was obvious that they did not put the White Wolf Gang in their eyes. At the same time, Mad Dog Zhao Chong also found something unusual. One of his men ran over and cried in panic, "President, we have been cheated. The bags are full of flour." Zhao Chong's expression changed. He took out a dagger from his back and suddenly cut a woven bag. Suddenly the dust flew and all the white flour was sprinkled. He suddenly became angry. Although he was in Burma, his code name was Mad Dog. Once he went crazy, he was not afraid of anyone. Throwing the dagger on the ground, Zhao Chang raised his hand and took out the desert eagle from his waist. He shouted to Ma Kuei, "What the fuck do you want to do? Don't you follow the rules of the underworld? How dare you cheat us with flour?" Ma Kuei's face became more gloomy and horrible. He said with a murderous look, "Your triad is really bold. You dare to cheat us, the White Wolf Gang. Not only did you use ghost money to buy goods, but you also made a false accusation. Bullshit, that's real US dollars. How could it be ghost money?" At this time, Zhao Chang had already determined that the White Wolf Gang was going to cheat them. He shouted to his men, "Do it, kill these bastards of the White Wolf Gang and get our money back." At the same time, Ma Kuei also shouted fiercely, "Kill them. Let them see the result of cheating." All of a sudden, the trading scene immediately became chaotic. All the gunmen looked for cover and then shot at each other. For a time, there was a lot of gunfire and people on both sides were shot and killed. The White Wolf Gang had 60 or 70 people, and they had a certain advantage in terms of numbers. However, the Triad Association had sent the elites of the gang, and their combat effectiveness was extremely strong. Therefore, after a fierce battle, the two sides were evenly matched, and no one had the advantage. Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian watched with relish. He took out 2 cans of beer from the storage ring, gave one to Hu Shaoxian and drank it himself. All of this was planned by him. Whether it was the drugs of the White Wolf Gang or the $100 million of the Triad, they were all in his storage ring. He would never be lenient to this kind of drug traffickers who harmed ordinary people, but this way was much better than doing it himself. On the one hand, he would kill less people, and on the other hand, he would make the White Wolf Gang and the Triad completely fall out, so that they would not unite to harm Wuxia in the future. At the same time, he also got the benefit of $100 million, which could be said to be killing 3 birds with 1 stone. The White Wolf Gang and the Triad fought more and more fiercely. It was impossible to retreat in such a flat place. Only death awaited them if they ran away. If they wanted to live, they could only kill each other desperately. The battle lasted for a full 20 minutes. Both sides suffered heavy casualties. In the end, only Mad Dog Zhao Chang was left on the Triad side, and his left leg was shot. There were 2 people left on the White Wolf Gang's side. One was Ma Kuei, and the other was Yan Xiaolu. Hu Shaoxian said with a smile, "That's enough. It's time for us to close the net." Qin Haodong drank up the beer in his hand and then stepped toward Ma Kuei and Yan Xiaolu. Ma Kuei and Yan Xiaolu's eyes were completely red. Each of them had a gun in their hands and they were shooting wildly at Zhao Chang. They did not notice that there were suddenly 2 people behind them. Qin Haodong did not bother to talk nonsense with them. The 1,000 blades in his hand flashed and directly pierced the hearts of the 2 people. Ma Kuei never dreamed that someone would stab him in the back. He tried to turn around. When he saw Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian, his face showed confusion and unwillingness. He did not know who this young man was and he did not know why he was killed. Qin Haodong smiled at him and said, "Go to hell. Remember not to sell drugs and harm people in your next life." Of course, Ma Kuei was unwilling to be killed in such an inexplicable way. He tried to raise the pistol in his hand and wanted to shoot at Qin Haodong. However, after several attempts he still failed to raise it. His eyes rolled back and he fell to the ground. Chapter 419. Ma Kuei was dead and Yan Xiaolu, who was next to him, had already stopped breathing. Their dream of being in charge of the White Wolf Gang had just begun, and they died together. After killing the 2 men of the White Wolf Gang, the gunfire stopped. Zhao Chang poked his head out from behind an off-road vehicle that had been shot like a beehive. Seeing that the gunfight was over and a man and a woman came to him, he slowly stood up, clenched the pistol in his hand, looked at Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian warily and asked, "Who are you?" Qin Haodong said, "It doesn't matter who I am. I'll spare your life today. Go back and tell the president of the Triad that if he dares to sell drugs to Wuxia in the future, the Triad will perish." "Boy, do you know who you're talking to?" After fighting for so long, the Mad Dog Zhao Chang was still fierce. He raised his gun and pointed it at Qin Haodong's face. But as soon as he raised his hand, he saw a flash of purple light in front of him, and then there was a sharp pain in his mind. His severed arm and the desert eagle fell to the ground together. Zhao Chang's arm was cut off, but Hu Xiaoxian's face did not change. She smiled and put away the purple flash sword. Qin Haodong said, "You're lucky. I still need a messenger. Otherwise you'll die like them today. Get out of here." After that, a strong murderous aura was suddenly released. Even though Zhao Chang was known as a mad dog, even though he had killed countless people in his life, facing such a strong murderous aura, he was so scared that his legs trembled and he almost peed his pants. I'll go. I'll go. Zhao Chang was completely frightened. He turned from a mad dog to a stray dog. He got in a usable jeep and left in a hurry. Qin Haodong turned back and burned the 5 boxes of hell money, which was a gift to these people. Then he left the scene with Hu Shaoxian. As soon as Lu Hongquan took over the Jade Gang, he received a call from Qin Haodong, who told him that Ma Kuei was dead and asked him to send someone to replace the leader of the White Wolf Gang immediately. He didn't expect that Qin Haodong would kill Ma Kuei so soon. He was full of admiration for Qin Haodong. He was like a god. After that, he immediately asked Li Zhong to bring people to replace the White Wolf Gang. As Lu Hongquan's most loyal subordinate, and at the same time he had made great contributions this time, Lu Hongquan did not mistreat Li Zhong. He directly made him the leader of the White Wolf Gang and regained control of the drug business in the Golden Triangle. Qin Haodong had no opinion on this. The Golden Triangle had existed for so many years that it was not something that he could eliminate just because he wanted to. Moreover, it was the government's responsibility to completely eliminate drugs. Many local people lived by growing opium poppy. He was just a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner in Wuxia, not a savior. As long as Li Zhong promised not to sell these things to Wuxia, it would be fine. When the sun rose the next day, many people discovered that the Golden Triangle had undergone earth-shaking changes overnight. 2 of the original 3 major gangs had changed owners. During the internal fight, both the Jade Gang and the White Wolf Gang had suffered some damage. They were even weaker than the Lutheran Society. However, the relationship between the 2 gangs was very good, so the Lutheran Society did not dare to make any moves. Relatively speaking, there was still a wonderful balance between the 3 forces. Some people speculated that with such a big change in the White Wolf Gang and the Jade Gang, General Li Site, the actual ruler of the Golden Triangle, would definitely stand up and speak out. Sure enough, General Li Site expressed his attitude that morning. However, to people's surprise, General Li Site did not express any dissatisfaction. He completely supported Lu Hongquan and Li Zhong. Since General Li Site had agreed, others naturally did not dare to say anything. From that day on, the Golden Triangle of Burma entered a new period. At the Tang Sect Clinic, Qin Haodong no longer needed to use the clinic to hide his identity. He directly took off the sign of the clinic and no longer opened the door to receive patients. Inside the clinic, Yagyu Yukaim, who was wearing a kimono and wooden clogs, was standing respectfully in front of Qin Haodong. "Master, the task you gave me has been completed." Glancing at Hu Shaoxian next to him, Qin Haodong was still somewhat not used to being called Yagyu Yukaim. He did not have any desire to be a master. Moreover, this beautiful woman had fought with him on the bed for a day and a night, so the relationship between them was not very easy to define. The reason why he signed the master-servant contract at the beginning was because he had no other choice. Otherwise, this woman would never stop pestering him. He waved his hand and motioned for Yagyu Yukaim to stand up. He said, "You did a good job. There's nothing else in Burma. You can go back to Japan." Yagyu Yukaim bowed again, but there was a flash of hesitation on her face. She glanced at Hu Shaoxian next to her and wanted to say something. Hu Shaoxian was as smart as a little fox. She immediately stood up and said, "You guys talk. I'll go to town and go back to Huaxia soon. I have to buy some specialties for everyone." After that, she looked at Qin Haodong with a playful face and said, "You guys talk slowly. Don't worry. I won't be back for a while." Qin Haodong looked embarrassed, but he could not say anything. This kind of thing always made things worse. After Hu Shaoxian left, he said to Yagyu Yukaim, "If you have something to say, just say it." Yagyu Yukaim knelt on the ground, lowered her head and said, "Yukaim begs master to help me get revenge." "Help you get revenge?" Qin Haodong was a little confused. He had killed Yagyu Hirai, and now Yagyu Yukaim wanted him to help her get revenge. Did she want him to kill himself? He asked doubtfully, "Get up first and tell me slowly. What do you mean?" Yagyu Yukaim understood what Qin Haodong was thinking. She stood up and said, "Master, Yagyu Hirai is dead. Whether the people of the Yagyu family live or die has nothing to do with me. My big enemy is Yagyu Shinji, the master of the Yagyu family." What are you talking about? My mind is a little confused." Qin Haodong was completely confused. He did not understand what Yagyu Yukaim meant. "Master, listen to me slowly." Yagyu Yukaim began to tell her story. "I grew up with Yagyu Shinji and always thought that he was my father. However, I accidentally found out that I was not born by Yagyu Shinji. On the contrary, he was our family's big enemy. Later, after many inquiries, I learned that I was born in an ordinary family. My parents ran a small tavern. Yagyu Shinji came to our house to drink. After seeing my mother's beauty, he immediately had an evil intention and tried to rape my mother. Because my mother resisted desperately, she angered Yagyu Shinji and was killed by him. At that time, my father came back and was also brutally killed by Yagyu Shinji. Qin Haodong frowned. He did not expect that the master of the Yagyu family would do such a thing. He said, "Since Yagyu Shinji had killed your parents, why did he let you go?" A strong hatred flashed across Yagyu Yukaim's face. She said, "At that time I had just turned 1 year old and didn't understand human affairs. Yagyu Shinji originally wanted to kill me, but he suddenly found that my bones were strange and very suitable for learning martial arts. So he took me into the Yagyu family and strictly ordered the family to reveal the truth to me. He raised me as a daughter." Qin Haodong said, "How did you know?" Yagyu Yukaim said, "This may have been arranged by Amaterasu. When I was practicing ninjutsu, I sneaked into Yagyu Hirai's room. At that time he was drinking with a friend. The man asked him if he was afraid that I would take away his position as the heir of the family because I was too good. Yagyu Hirai told the truth after he was drunk. He said that I was just a bastard, a tool picked up by his father. I was not a member of the Yagyu family at all, and it was impossible for me to become the heir of the family. Later, I collected the hair of Yagyu Shinji and Yagyu Hirai and secretly did a DNA test to confirm that I had no blood relationship with them." Speaking of this, Yagyu Yukaim's eyes were full of hatred. She said in a cold voice, "From then on, I had always wanted to avenge my parents, but I knew that I couldn't fight against the entire Yagyu family, let alone Yagyu Shinji. I had always endured humiliation and worked hard to practice. I was looking forward to the day when I could kill Yagyu Shinji with my own hands and avenge my dead parents. It was because I had been under great psychological pressure that my personality showed signs of being split. That's why people called me a two-faced witch." Qin Haodong sighed secretly. He hadn't expected that the young lady of the Yagyu family, who seemed to be infinitely beautiful and envied by countless people, had such an unknown experience. No wonder Yagyu Yukaim hadn't shown too much hatred toward him all this time. It turned out that killing Yagyu Hirai could be regarded as helping her get revenge. Yagyu Yukaim continued, "Although I have now become a heavenly ninja, Yagyu Shinji is also a heavenly ninja. He is above me in both cultivation and experience. Moreover, he has the entire Yagyu family behind him, so I still can't take revenge unless my cultivation can advance to the next level and become a level 2 heavenly ninja. But that's too far away. I can't wait. Master, I know that your cultivation is high enough now and you can easily kill Yagyu Shinji. Please, as long as you can help me avenge my parents, I can do anything for you. I can even be your slave." Yagyu Yukaim's words made Qin Haodong feel embarrassed. What era was it now? Why did he need a slave? He thought for a moment and said, "You want me to go to Neon with you and kill Yagyu Shinji?" Yagyu Yukaim knelt down again and said, "Master, please help me get revenge." "I can't promise you that." Qin Haodong said, "I don't have time to go to Neon with you. Moreover, if I help you get revenge, you will no longer be able to control the Yagyu family in the future. It's more meaningful for you to do it yourself." Yagyu Yukaim's beautiful face flashed with unconcealable disappointment. "But master, I can't kill Yagyu Shinji, don't worry. Although I can't help you get revenge, I can help you improve your cultivation. Come with me." Qin Haodong turned around and walked in the direction of the bedroom. He wanted to help this Neon woman get revenge. Moreover, they had already had a one-night stand, so he didn't mind using the double cultivation initiation technique again. Yagyu Yukaim followed Qin Haodong without any hesitation. Because of the master-servant contract, she had 100% trust in the man in front of her. She didn't even have any resistance. A minute later, the two of them met on the bed again. Last time they had lost their minds under the effect of the drug, but this time they were very sober. Qin Haodong said with a little embarrassment, "Don't think too much. I'm helping you improve your cultivation." Yukaim knows. Seeing Yagyu Yukaim's unique respect for Neon women, Qin Haodong didn't know whether she really knew or not. However, it didn't matter anymore. The important thing was that they were about to start the double cultivation. Chapter 420. 5 minutes later, Qin Haodong found that the double cultivation initiation technique was progressing very smoothly. Although Yagyu Yukaim had her own genuine qi, she had absolute and unconditional trust in Qin Haodong because of the master-servant relationship. She could let the green wood genuine qi break through the acupoints and dredge the meridians in her body. Under the guidance of the pure green wood genuine Qi, Yagyu Yukaim's cultivation soon rose to the second level of the supreme power realm. An hour later, her momentum suddenly soared again and reached the third level of the supreme power realm. Qin Haodong was slightly surprised. Originally, he thought that it was very difficult to help Yagyu Yukaim reach the second level of the supreme power realm. He didn't expect that it would have such a good effect. Master, thank you. Although the posture between the two of them was a little strange, Yagyu Yukaim was completely sincere. At this time she was extremely grateful to the master in front of her, in addition to awe. Qin Haodong said, well, with your current cultivation of the third level of Heavenly Ninja, it's enough to find Yagyu Shinji for revenge. Yagyu Yukaim bit her lip and a flash of embarrassment flashed across her face. She said, Master, let Yukaim serve you well. Then she let Qin Haodong lie on the bed and took all the initiative. This time the communication between the two of them was very pure. It was the kind of communication between a man and a woman. This time, without the stimulation of drugs and the burden of improving his cultivation, Yagyu Yukaim's obedience and gentleness as a neon woman really made Qin Haodong experience an exotic style. Not long after Yagyu Yukaim left, Hu Shaoxian returned to the clinic. She looked at Qin Haodong with a playful face and asked, how was the talk? Did it go deep? Did it go deep? Qin Haodong said embarrassedly, it's not what you think? Hu Shaoxian smiled like a little fox again and said, what did I think? How do you know it's not what I think? Well, it's like this. Qin Haodong told her about the hatred between Yagyu Yukaim and Yagyu Shinji from beginning to end. Finally he said, Yagyu Yukaim talked to me about revenge. I didn't expect it to be so bizarre. Hu Shaoxian nodded and said, and then? The beauty asked for help. Did you agree? No. Qin Haodong said, I think it's best for him to avenge his parents by himself. Besides, I don't have time. Before he could finish, Hu Shaoxian said, but she was no match for Yagyu Shinji, so you helped her improve her cultivation, right? Qin Haodong was speechless. This woman was too smart. He said embarrassedly, it's like this. Anyway, she helped us this time and we have a master-servant contract. If anything happens to her, my strength will be damaged. Hu Shaoxian said with a smile, I don't want to hear that. I just want to know how you helped her improve her cultivation. Thinking of what had just happened, Qin Haodong looked embarrassed and couldn't say anything. Hu Shaoxian put her arms around his neck and said with a smile, it's hard to say, isn't it? Then act it out for me. How did you help Yagyu Yukaim improve her cultivation just now? Show me the whole thing. Remember, it must be authentic. Not a single detail can be missing. When Qin Haodong was about to say something, he was pushed down on the bed by Hu Shaoxian. She repeated the scene that had just happened not long ago. The two of them left the Tang sect clinic when it was close to evening. From morning to night, even with Qin Haodong's strong physique, he felt a little weak in the legs. First Yagyu Yukaim, then Hu Shaoxian. The attacks of these two women were so fierce. If his cultivation hadn't reached the gold core stage, he would have been holding the wall and walking. After some nourishment, Hu Shaoxian was in high spirits. She held Qin Haodong's arm and said with a smile, little man, your way of improving your cultivation is very special. We have to practice more in the future. But I have to keep an eye on you. You're like Tang Xing now. You can improve your cultivation by rolling in the bed. If the news gets out, you'll be snatched away by all kinds of enchantresses. Qin Haodong smiled awkwardly. He thought to himself, I can't even handle a little fox like you. How dare I provoke others? Hu Shaoxian asked again, how is the effect on Yagyu Yukaim's side? How much has her cultivation improved? Qin Haodong said, because of the master-servant contract, the effect of the initiation technique is very good. She's now the same as us, almost at the third level of the supreme power realm. Hu Shaoxian said, rolling in the bed once is equivalent to decades of hard work for others. It seems that I have to roll in the bed with you more in the future. While they were talking, they had arrived at the residence of the Jade Gang. This time, Lu Hankuan invited them to a banquet. In the luxurious living room of the Jade Gang, a sumptuous banquet had already been set up. Lu Hankuan invited Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian to sit in the main seats, while he and Li Zhong accompanied them. Although they had now completely controlled the Jade Gang and the White Wolf Gang, they had a kind of respect for Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian from the bottom of their hearts. On the one hand, they were grateful to Qin Haodong for saving their lives from the bottom of their hearts. They knew that without Qin Haodong they wouldn't be where they were today. On the other hand, they were very clear about the power of this Wuxia man. He didn't care about a small gang leader at all. Two benefactors, thank you for saving my life. Lu Hongquan and Li Zhong both raised their glasses and toasted Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian. After putting down the glass, Lu Hongquan said, "Dr. Qin, if it weren't for your help this time, my life would have been over, so please give me a chance to repay your kindness." Qin Haodong said, "I've already said that there are conditions for helping you. First, you must ensure the supply of Jiangnan Lin's group's jade. Second, you must ensure that the White Wolf Gang's drugs can't enter Wuxia. These two conditions are too simple. Even if Dr. Qin didn't say it, we would do it. I don't think we can express our gratitude to Dr. Qin at all." Lu Hongquan said, "Dr. Qin, how about this? In the future you will be the chief of both of us. The White Wolf Gang and the Jade Gang will all listen to your command." Qin Haodong shook his head and said, "Forget it. I'm just a doctor. I'm not interested in this kind of gang business." This. Lu Hongquan and Li Dong looked at each other and said, "Dr. Qin, how about this? I'll give you a gift. Please accept it. But this gift is not mature yet, so I can't take it out." Qin Haodong saw that he was serious, so he asked, "Tell me, what is it?" Lu Hongquan said, "Dr. Qin, do you know why Zhou Tianhu didn't kill me directly? On the contrary, he imprisoned me for so long?" Qin Haodong said, "He should have a plan." "That's right." Lu Hongquan nodded and said, "Everyone knows that jade comes from Burma, but in recent years, due to excessive mining, the raw jade gemstones in the old pit of Burma are almost exhausted, and less can be produced. The newly opened mines not only have low output, but also poor quality. 3 years ago, when I was hunting in the mountains, I accidentally found a new rich jade mine. My old man has dealt with jade all his life, so he immediately felt that this mine was unusual. Later, I invited professionals to inspect it, and the conclusion was that the raw jade gemstones stored in this mine, both in quantity and quality, are no less than those in the old pit of Burma. Once developed, the value is immeasurable." Qin Haodong asked, "Since there is such a good mine, why hasn't it been developed yet?" "There are two main reasons for not developing it. First, the new mine is deep in the mountains and the road is blocked. If we want to develop it, we have to build the road first, which requires a lot of money. Second, the location of the new mine is within the sphere of influence of the Sirius Gang. At that time, the relationship between the Jade Gang and the White Wolf Gang was not very good, so they couldn't develop it across the border. Because of these two reasons, I secretly hid this secret, but I didn't expect that Zhou Tianhu still got a hint. But because of this, my life was saved." After a pause, Lu Hongquan continued, "In the past 2 days, Li Zhong and I have been discussing how to repay Dr. Qin for saving our lives. To tell you the truth, we have just taken control of the Jade Gang and the White Wolf Gang, and we don't have much money in our hands. If we don't have enough money, we can't express our gratitude with money. Originally, I wanted to give this jade mine to Dr. Qin as a reward, but the mine can't be developed for the time being. I was afraid that Dr. Qin would doubt our sincerity, so I didn't say anything." After listening to Lu Hongquan, Qin Haodong's heart moved. This was good news. If the Lin's group had the support of this jade mine, they would no longer have to worry about the supply of raw jade gemstones. Seeing that Qin Haodong didn't speak, Lu Hongquan thought he was not satisfied. He quickly said, "Dr. Qin, this is what I think. From now on, this jade mine belongs to you. After a period of time, when we have some savings in our hands, we will immediately build the road and develop it. All the money from the sale of the raw jade gemstones will belong to you." Qin Haodong thought for a moment and said, "How much money does it cost to develop this new mine?" Lu Hongquan said, "Because the cost of building the road is relatively high, it will cost 2 billion yuan. Qin Haodong said, "I don't know how the ownership of the Burmese mine is divided. If we invest 2 billion yuan to develop it, will we be forcibly expropriated by the Burmese government?" Lu Hongquan said, "That won't happen. Our location is relatively remote and belongs to the sphere of influence of General Li Site. The Burmese government can't reach so far." Qin Haodong said, "In other words, to develop this mine, we must also get the consent of General Li Site?" Li Zhong said, "This is necessary, but I have already discussed it with the old gang leader. After a period of time, we will go to discuss with General Li Site together. I believe he will agree." Qin Haodong thought for a moment and said, "Well, I will pay 2 billion yuan, and you will immediately prepare to develop this new mine. The ownership of the mine will be divided in this way. General Li Site and I will each take 40%, and the Jade Gang and the White Wolf Gang will each take 10%. What do you think?" Both Lu Hongquan and Li Zhong were shocked. They didn't expect Qin Haodong to be able to take out so much money at once. They quickly said, "Dr. Qin, you are our savior. This mine is to repay you. We don't want shares. Qin Haodong waved his hand and said, the shares will be as I said. After all, you have so many brothers to support. I will go to General Li's site later to discuss it and settle things as soon as possible. He knew very well that he was not in Burma. If he wanted to stabilize the jade mine, he had to have a good relationship with Li's site, the local tyrant, so it was necessary to give up 40% of the shares. The same was true for the Jade Gang and the White Wolf Gang. They couldn't let people work for free for a long time. Kindness was not something that lasted long. It was the most stable way to divide the shares through cooperation. Chapter 421. Now the market for jade was rising. According to Lu Hongquan, the value of the new pit was likely to be more than 100 billion yuan, so it was a profitable business for him to invest 2 billion yuan in mining. He now had 1 billion yuan paid by the Yagyu family and $100 million from the triad. Later he would ask Lin Momo to transfer 400 million yuan, so 2 billion yuan would be enough. After discussing the development of the pit, they almost finished the meal. Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian left the Jade Gang together and rushed to General Li Site's camp. They had less and less time to stay in Burma. Some things had to be done as soon as possible. After talking about the development of the new pit, Li Site thought for a moment and said, this is a great thing. I have no problem with it, but 40% of the shares is a little too much. Well, I'll give 10% of the shares to Dr. Qin as a medical fee for my son. He had his own considerations. He had enough money and he could not spend it all in several lifetimes. In contrast, it was more important to make a good friend with a magic doctor. He and Li Pingan might get sick one day and need Qin Haodong's help. Seeing Li Site's sincerity, Qin Haodong did not say more. After all, the more shares he had, the better. He took a small jade bottle from his pocket and gave it to Li Site. He said, General, this is the physique-improving pill that I personally refined. There are 2 pills in it, one for you and one for the young general. After eating it, I promise that the young general will never get sick again, and you can live to 100 years old. It's not a problem to have a son. Qin Haodong was very clear about the situation in Burma. Only General Li Site could ensure the normal production of his jade mine. Once Li Site died, everything would be full of variables, so he naturally did not care about the 2 pills. Li Site had seen Qin Haodong's magical medical skills, so he had no doubt about his words. He immediately took the 2 pills as if they were treasures. At the moment he was very happy. It seemed that his decision just now was right. There was no harm in having a good relationship with a great magic doctor. In this way the agreement on the development of the new pit was reached. Because there was no law in the Golden Triangle, the 2 sides did not need to form a written agreement. They just needed to nod to each other. After telling Lu Hongquan the news, Qin Haodong said, Boss Lu, I heard that there will be a raw jade gemstone exhibition these days. When will it start? I want to go and have a look. Lu Hongquan said, what a coincidence. The exhibition starts early the day after tomorrow, but it is not in the Golden Triangle but in Peking. If Dr. Qin is interested, I will send someone to take you there. Qin Haodong said, I'm going to buy a batch of raw stones. After all, it will take a while for the new mine to be built. Distant water can't quench present thirst. Lu Hongquan said, that's easy. Dr. Qin, just take any stone you like. After that, he called over 2 bodyguards and arranged an off-road vehicle to send Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian to Peking. As soon as the 2 of them left, he picked up his mobile phone and called Mao Wenlong, the person in charge of the raw gemstone exhibition. He asked him to arrange all of Qin Haodong's itinerary and all the raw gemstones were free. In short, he should treat Qin Haodong the same way he treated his ancestors. Mao Wenlong did not dare to neglect the task assigned by the boss. He immediately took some people to meet Qin Haodong. When he first saw Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian, his heart was full of shock. He did not know how such 2 young people could be so valued by the boss. However, he did not dare to show his thoughts on the surface. After some greetings, he arranged for Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian to the most luxurious hotel in Peking. Because Peking was rich in raw jade gemstones, many businessmen had come here to buy raw gemstones in recent years, which had driven the economy here. It looked more like a county. After settling down, Qin Haodong called Lin Momo and asked her to come here tomorrow to attend the raw gemstone exhibition. After hanging up the phone, he found that Hu Shaoxian was looking at him with a smile. For some reason, when he saw the smile on Hu Shaoxian's face, he suddenly had a very bad feeling. He asked nervously, what are you going to do? Hu Shaoxian winked at him and then said playfully, nothing, I just feel that my cultivation is too low, so I want to hurry up and improve it. The next morning, although the sun had risen, Qin Haodong was still sleeping. Although the dual cultivation method was beneficial to the improvement of cultivation, Hu Shaoxian did not let him go until it was almost dawn last night. People still needed to sleep after all. Suddenly there was a violent knock on the door. "Papa, open the door. I'm here." Hearing that his daughter had come, Qin Haodong sat up suddenly. He was not sleepy at all. He did not expect Lin Momo to come so soon. Although he did not intend to hide the matter with Hu Shaoxian from Lin Momo, he had not taken the initiative to tell her. It was a little embarrassing to be caught by them at this time. However, he looked around and did not see Hu Shaoxian's shadow. There was no one in the bathroom. It seemed that she had gone out. He breathed a sigh of relief, put on his clothes and opened the door. "Papa, why did you open the door so late?" After entering the door, the little fellow rushed into Qin Haodong's arms. Seeing the scattered quilt on the bed, she said, "Daddy, are you a big lazy worm? The sun is shining on your butt and you still don't get up." Lin Momo said considerately, "Tang Tang, don't make trouble. Daddy must be too tired yesterday." The little fellow hugged his neck and said, "Is that so, Papa?" Qin Haodong looked embarrassed. From Yagi Yukaim to Hu Shaoxian, these two women really tired him out, but it was really difficult to say this kind of tiredness. Fortunately, the door opened at this time, and Hu Shaoxian came in from outside with breakfast, which eased his embarrassment. After greeting Lin Momo, Hu Shaoxian said to the little fellow, "Tang Tang, did you miss Auntie Shaoxian? I bought you delicious food." "Yes, I miss Auntie Shaoxian the most." The little fellow immediately jumped out of Qin Haodong's arms, turned around and rushed into Hu Shaoxian's arms. After teasing the little fellow a few times, Hu Shaoxian said to Lin Momo, "Sister Lin, you came here so early. You haven't eaten yet, right? I bought local snacks. Let's have a taste and see if it suits our taste." "Eat delicious food, eat delicious food," the little fellow cried out happily. Although the breakfast in Burma was different from that in Wuxia, it was still good to eat it occasionally. They all had a very good time. After breakfast, Hu Shaoxian said to the little fellow, "Tang Tang, Auntie Shaoxian will take you out to play, okay?" "Okay." The little fellow said happily, "But aren't Papa and Mama going?" Hu Shaoxian said, "Papa and Mama still have important things to discuss. Let's go out to play first and then let them find us later, okay?" "Okay then." The little fellow nodded obediently, and then jumped into Hu Shaoxian's arms. "Sister Lin, you go ahead with your work. I'll take Tang Tang out for a walk." After saying goodbye to Lin Momo, Hu Shaoxian turned around and glanced at Qin Haodong meaningfully. Then she left the room with the little fellow. As the door closed, Lin Momo suddenly jumped into Qin Haodong's arms. Although they had only been separated for a short time of 10 days, absence made the heart grow fonder. At this time, her eyes were full of longing. After a passionate kiss, Qin Haodong's two big hands had begun to invade her. Lin Momo gasped and said, "No, what if Shaoxian and Tang Tang come back later? It's so embarrassing in broad daylight." She stopped and said, "It doesn't matter. Shaoxian is creating opportunities for us. She won't come back for a while." "Creating what opportunities?" Lin Momo asked with a shy face. Qin Haodong said, "Momo, now that I have formed the gold core, I can take you to cultivate with me." "So soon?" Lin Momo was surprised at first, and then she said excitedly, "Great, it's really great. Then when shall we start?" She had always been eager to be able to cultivate as soon as possible. On the one hand, she didn't want to be a burden to Qin Haodong. On the other hand, she wanted to increase her lifespan so that the family of 3 could be together for a long time. "Let's start now. This is the opportunity that Shaoxian has created for us." After saying that, Qin Haodong picked Lin Momo up and put her on the bed. A new round of double cultivation began again. As time went by, Lin Momo's aura became stronger and stronger. Under the nourishment of the greenwood genuine qi, she finally formed her own gold core. In just an hour, there was another master in the world who had reached the 3rd level of the supreme power realm. From an ordinary person to someone who had formed the gold core, Lin Momo was so excited that she felt like she was about to fly. "Haodong, is this true? I'm not dreaming, am I?" "What do you think?" Qin Haodong said as he pinched her there. Feeling the itch and numbness coming from her chest, Lin Momo was sure that she was not dreaming. She had really become a master and she would never have to worry about being a burden in the future. After another round of sex, they slowly calmed down. Lin Momo curled up in Qin Haodong's arms and said, "Haodong, it feels so good to be strong." Then she asked, "Didn't you say that you need to find another one of the 12 zodiac animals to form the gold core? How did you do it so quickly?" "It's all God's will." Listen to me slowly. Qin Haodong told her what had happened after he and Hu Shaoxian came to Burma from beginning to end, including falling into Zhou Qianhu's trap and almost dying in the hands of the Black Stone Taoist. Finally he said, it was Shaoxian who performed the celestial fox life sacrifice. She sacrificed her own cultivation to save me and help me form the gold core. Then I used the method of double cultivation to help her improve her cultivation. After that, he looked at Lin Momo and said, Momo, you don't blame me, do you? Why should I blame you? Lin Momo reached out her hands, held his cheeks and said, I told you before, as long as you are good to me and Tang Tang, I don't care about anything else. You've experienced so many dangers this time and almost lost your life. It was Shaoxian who saved you, which is equivalent to saving me and Tang Tang. I can't thank her enough. How can I blame you? Qin Haodong breathed a sigh of relief and kissed Lin Momo on the forehead. He said, Momo, thank you. Lin Momo said, don't thank me. You're our sky. As long as you're safe, it's fine. I'll thank Shaoxian later. A woman like her, who is willing to sacrifice her life for you, is really worthy of love. You must treat her well in the future. There's another good news I want to tell you. After the important things were said, Qin Haodong relaxed a lot. Then he told Lin Momo about the recent situation in Burma. He said, when this mine is developed, Lin's group will no longer have to worry about the raw jade stones. I've fulfilled my promise to Master Lin. Chapter 422. Haodong, you're amazing. Lin Momo was very excited now. Not only had she become a real cultivator, but she had also solved such a big problem for the Lin family. She held Qin Haodong and was about to express her excitement in her own way when there was another knock on the door. Mama, I'm back. Hearing the voice of the little fellow, the two of them had no other mood. They jumped out of bed and hurriedly put on their clothes. Lin Momo immediately felt the benefits of improving her cultivation. Her hands were much more agile than before, and she even put on clothes incredibly fast. She looked down and checked her clothes. After making sure there was no problem, she reached out and opened the door. Tang Tang, why are you back so soon? Lin Momo asked subconsciously. Mama, we've been out for a long time. Tang Tang is hungry. After the little fellow said that, Lin Momo realized that her words were wrong. It was already noon. She and Qin Haodong had been together for a long time. Her face suddenly burned and she was embarrassed. Fortunately, the little fellow did not notice her. She said to Qin Haodong, Papa, let's go eat. Let's go eat. Qin Haodong held the little fellow and the four of them walked to the hotel restaurant together. Lin Momo and Hu Shaoxian walked behind. She whispered, Shaoxian, thank you. Hu Shaoxian was smart and immediately understood what Lin Momo meant. She smiled and said, Sister Lin, you're welcome. This is what I should do. Lin Momo took Hu Shaoxian's hand and said, you're right. This man is really worrisome. You have to help me take care of him in the future. Hearing this, Hu Shaoxian's body trembled slightly. She understood that Lin Momo had completely accepted her. She knew how much Qin Haodong valued Lin Momo and her daughter. She had been worried that Lin Momo would reject her, but now she could finally rest assured. After lunch, the four of them toured the urban area of Peking. That night, Hu Shaoxian returned to the capital first. The next day was the day of the raw gemstone exhibition. Mao Wenlong had sent a car to wait in front of the hotel early and took Qin Haodong and his party to the raw gemstone exhibition. The location of the raw gemstone exhibition was very unique. On the left was a flowing river, on the right was a towering mountain, and in the middle was an open space of about 100 acres. It was said that it used to be a raw gemstone pit. After it was developed, it was backfilled and became the current raw gemstone exhibition. Qin Haodong looked around. Although the exhibition had just begun, it was already crowded with businessmen and tourists who came to buy raw gemstones. The format of the exhibition was basically the same as that of Lin's group. The raw stones of various sizes were divided into several areas and then marked with numbers. Customers could buy them directly after selecting them. However, in terms of scale, the raw gemstone exhibition here was much larger than the one in Wuxia. Countless raw gemstones could not be seen at a glance. There were also a sea of customers from all over the world buying raw gemstones. He glanced at Mao Wenlong, who was respectfully following behind him, and said, Brother Mao, you go ahead with your work. We'll look around by ourselves. Mao said, Mao as, Mao, I, Mao said he, Mao he. Time he mom he Mao he as he. Then he left his phone number to Qin Haodong and turned to leave. Qin Haodong held the little fellow in his arms and wandered around the exhibition site with the mentality of a game. Lin Momo followed Qin Haodong with a small notebook, and from time to time she wrote down the raw stone number that Qin Haodong exposed in the notebook. In this raw gemstone exhibition, Lin's group sent a special purchasing group, led by Lu Yage with professional jewelry appraisers, to purchase in other parts of the venue. In this case, Qin Haodong didn't care about ordinary raw stones at all. The ones he chose were all fine ones with a premium rate of more than 20 times, and some even reached 100 times. Under such circumstances, the frequency of his attacks was naturally much lower. In addition, in order not to attract attention, he deliberately slowed down and brought the little fellow along to watch the show from the side from time to time. Gambling was human nature. Every time the raw gemstone exhibition came, the most interesting thing for people was stone gambling. Many people liked to choose a stone and cut it on the spot. In this case, it would often attract a large number of people to watch. However, as long as there was gambling, there was a loss and a win. In the stone gambling business, there was a saying that one cut was poor and one cut was rich, and one cut was heaven and one cut was hell. Some people chose a stone, and they might become millionaires in the blink of an eye, and some people lost everything in the blink of an eye. As the three people were wandering, suddenly there was a noise in front of them. Someone jumped into the river. Someone jumped into the river. Not far in front of them, a figure jumped into the big river next to them. The current of the river was very fast. After the man entered, he was swept away by the waves and disappeared in a flash. Seeing a life disappear just like that, the surrounding people began to discuss spiritedly. What happened? Why did he jump into the river? Do you need to say? He must have lost the bet. He bought a stone with 2 million yuan, but he was completely ruined and didn't get a penny back. No one could bear it. But he didn't jump into the river, did he? I heard that the 2 million yuan was borrowed from usury. Even if he didn't jump into the river, he would be beaten to death. Lin Momo shook her head and said, "It's a pity. Is it worth it for a stone?" Qin Haodong said, "He didn't die because of the stone, but because of his own greed. He blindly wanted to get something without sowing and wanted to get rich overnight. In the end he could only die." He had no mercy for this kind of gambler. Whether it was the cultivation world or the earth, there were such people everywhere. Anyone who was addicted to gambling would end up miserable. The man's death did not cause too many waves in the raw gemstone exhibition. Soon people forgot him and continued to pay attention to the stone. The little fellow didn't understand this. Her big eyes were fixed on the stone gambling scene next to her. It seemed that she was very interested in the fact that there could be jade in the stone. "Papa, stone gambling is fun. I also want to choose a stone to cut." Qin Haodong said, "Okay, how about Papa help you choose a stone?" The little fellow cried, No, I want to choose by myself." Lin Momo said, "Haodong, let me choose by myself." She knew Qin Haodong's ability very well. She knew that as long as Qin Haodong chose the stone, it would be at least 10 times or even dozens of times more valuable. However, after the stimulation of what had just happened, she didn't want her daughter to develop the awareness that gambling was easy, so she let her choose by herself. It was better to choose a stone that could not be cut so that she could have a correct understanding of gambling. Qin Haodong also understood what Lin Momo meant and said, "Okay, then I choose by myself." "Which one are you going to choose?" The little fellow looked around. Although Qin Haodong held her in his arms, there were too many people around, so she still couldn't see the small stone. She stretched out her white and tender fingers, pointed to a huge raw stone next to her and cried, "The big one, Papa, I want the biggest one." Qin Haodong and Lin Momo looked along her little finger and saw that the stone was 2 meters high and more than 1 meter wide. It should weigh 2 or 3 tons. It was the largest raw stone within sight. He laughed in his heart. His daughter was so unlucky in choosing the stone. Although this stone was very big and looked good with python patterns and cracks, there was no spiritual chi at all. Looking at the price, it turned out to be more than 500,000 yuan, and the exhibition here was priced in US dollars. 500,000 US dollars was 3 or 4 million yuan, which was enough to buy a sports car. After all, Qin Haodong still felt a little reluctant, so he tentatively said to the little fellow, Tang, can we choose another one?" The little fellow shook her head and said, No, I want the biggest one." Qin Haodong was speechless. The child's logic was really simple. She chose this stone because it was the biggest. He still wanted to say something, but Lin Momo said, "Forget it. Since it's my daughter's choice, let's respect her opinion." Looking at Qin Haodong's expression, she knew that this stone would definitely be lost, but in order to let her daughter have a correct understanding of gambling, she still decided to buy this stone. Qin Haodong nodded and said nothing more. Lin Momo waved her hand and called a staff member over. She pointed to the big stone and said, "We'll take this." The staff member said, "Okay, would you like to cut the stone here or check it in for you?" "I'll cut it on the spot." After Lin Momo said that, she took out a bank card. Before she could give it to the staff, a man and a woman came from the other side. The man was about 40 or 50 years old, short and fat. It was estimated that he would never be able to see his little penis when he peed. The woman holding his arm was only about 20 years old, tall and particularly enchanting. When the two of them were together, it was easy for others to see the relationship between them. When they walked nearby, the woman pointed to the big stone chosen by the little fellow and said, "Honey, this stone is good. I want to bet on it." "Good. I can't see anything except that it's a little big. Don't tell me that you also like big stones?" The man said and laughed. His face was dirty and anyone could hear the meaning of his words. "You're so annoying. I like big ones. What's wrong? Buy it for me." The woman's voice was coquettish. It was so charming that it could give people goosebumps. "Okay, since my baby likes big ones, let's have a big one." After the short and fat man said that, he waved to the staff next to him and said, "Did you hear that? My baby wants the stone. Hurry up and bring it to me. I want to cut it on the spot and see my baby's luck." After that, he also took out a bank card and gave it to the staff. Although the little fellow didn't understand what the two people said, she generally understood that they wanted to rob her stone. She immediately cried, "No, no, that stone belongs to me." The staff member said to the short and fat man with embarrassment, "I'm sorry, sir. This stone has been chosen by this lady." Because there were too many people on the scene, after the staff member finished speaking, the short and fat man saw Lin Momo. Suddenly, a look of amazement appeared on his face, and then his eyes showed irrepressible greed and desire. Although the woman next to him was somewhat beautiful, compared with Lin Momo, she was simply a rotten leaf not worth mentioning. He wiped the saliva from the corner of his mouth, shook off the woman next to him, took 2 steps forward and said to Lin Momo, "Miss, let me introduce myself. I'm Li Wangkai. I have companies in Burma and Wuxia. My family has assets of more than 100 million. As long as you're willing to have dinner and drink with me tonight, this stone will be my gift to you. How about it?" Lin Momo glanced at him and suddenly said with a face full of disgust, "No need." After that, she handed the bank card to the staff again and said, "I want this stone." Chapter 423. Li Wangcai's expression changed. He had already announced his name, but the woman in front of him still didn't give him any face. He took a step forward and stood between Lin Momo and the staff. He said angrily, "Do you know who I am?" Qin Haodong glanced at the self-righteous guy and reached out to stop the divine mercenaries who were about to come forward to beat him. Then he stood side by side with Lin Momo and said, "We don't know who you are, but in Wuxia people called Wangkai are generally dogs. There's an old saying in Wuxia that a good dog doesn't stand in the way." As soon as he said that, the onlookers burst into laughter. Li Wangkai glanced at the divine mercenaries standing beside Qin Haodong and immediately gave up the idea of using violence. However, he had lost face in public. His face swelled like a pig's liver, but he still shouted fiercely, "Boy, do you want to die?" He regretted it now. If he had known it would be like this, he would have brought his bodyguards with him today. Qin Haodong still looked calm and said, "I don't want to die. We just want to buy that stone. Please get out of the way." Li Wangkai cried, "No, my woman likes that stone. I can't sell it to you." Qin Haodong frowned and said, "First come, first served. That stone was chosen by my daughter first. You should sell it to us first." The little fellow said, Yes. That's the stone chosen by Tang Tang. You can't give it to others." The people around also began to talk. "That's right. That stone was chosen by the little girl first. What's the point of robbing? There are plenty of stones here. You can choose another one." The staff also stepped forward and said, "Sir, that stone was indeed chosen by the little girl first. There are so many stones in the exhibition. You can choose another one." At this time, the coquettish woman held Li Wangcai's arm and rubbed her silicone chest back and forth. "My dear husband, I want that stone. I like big ones." Qin Haodong said, "Beautiful women can't be satisfied in some aspects. Choosing a big stone alone won't solve the problem. Besides, we'll buy this stone first." His words were very vague, but there were still quite a few people who heard the meaning behind it and couldn't help but laugh foolishly. The coquettish woman was stunned for a moment, then she hugged Li Wangcai's arm and cried, "Honey, did you hear that? He said you were small." Seeing that this stupid woman actually exposed it in front of everyone, the onlookers burst into laughter. Li Wangsai's face turned red. He had a stomach full of anger, but he had no way to vent it. He turned to the staff next to him and said, "You must sell this stone to me." The staff member said awkwardly, "Sir, I really can't." Li Wangkai said angrily, "Why not? Aren't your stones for sale? I can pay more. I have money." He took out his bank card and shouted, "Isn't this stone priced at 500,000? I'll pay 1 million. The staff member looked embarrassed. From the bottom of his heart, he naturally wanted to sell it for more money. The higher the price of the stone, the more commission he would get. However, the exhibition also had the rules of the exhibition. After all, this thing was seen by Qin Haodong first. Qin Haodong was secretly amused. It was a big loss of 500,000 yuan for a stone with nothing, but this guy actually doubled the price directly. Since he wanted to be the biggest winner, Qin Haodong would give him a hand. He pretended to be indignant and said, "More money, right? This stone is what my daughter wants. I'll pay 5 million. Li Wangkai cried, 2 million, 2 million, 3 million. The two of them began to compete with each other and took turns to bid. Each time the increase was the original price of the stone. Soon the price reached 5 million. It should be known that the price here was in US dollars. 5 million was more than 30 million yuan, which was 10 times higher than the original price. These two people are crazy. How can they spend so much money on such a stone? What do you know? Rich people want to save face. Rich people are really capricious. With such a high price, I guess whoever buys it will lose." As the price continued to rise and he heard the discussion around him, Li Wangkai slowly calmed down. He had been in Burma for so many years and had a certain understanding of raw jade stones. This stone was not worth the price at all. Moreover, as a businessman he was very shrewd in the business world, far from being as stupid as he looked. He secretly decided that as long as Qin Haodong increased the price this time, he would immediately quit and cheat this young man. Although Qin Haodong seemed to be very casual, in fact, he had been observing Li Wangsai's expression with his spirit. At this time he had already seen through his mind. He could not help but smile and said, "Since you have to buy this stone, then I'll quit." Puff, Li Wangkai almost vomited blood. He did not expect that just when he was about to cheat the other party directly quit. A stone with a price of 500,000 was sold for 5 million. Maybe because the happiness came too suddenly, the staff member was stunned and had not come to his senses yet. Qin Haodong patted him on the shoulder and said, "Brother, hurry up and collect the money." Only then did the staff member come to his senses. He quickly took the card in Li Wangsai's hand and swiped it on the credit card machine. With a beep, 5 million was transferred. Li Wangkai looked at Qin Haodong gloomily and said, "You cheated me." Qin Haodong said innocently, "How can you say that? The price was shouted out by yourself. You can't blame others." Seeing that she finally got the stone, the coquettish woman looked excited. She held Li Wangsai's arm again and rubbed it. She said, "Honey, don't be angry. There must be a large piece of jade in the stone I chose. Maybe there can be a treasure." At this point, Li Wangkai had no other way. If he could cut out a piece of jade, he would feel better. He snorted and said to the staff member, "Hurry up and find someone to cut it for me." "Okay, please wait a moment." The staff member had just made a lot of money and was very excited. In a flash, he called 2 stone cutters. For such a large raw gemstone exhibition, the Jade Gang had prepared hundreds of stone cutters to cut for these gamblers at any time. The 2 stone cutters used a forklift to move the large stone over and then began to cut it. The people around did not disperse. On the contrary, they were full of interest. They gathered around and wanted to see what Li Wangkai could cut out. Qin Haodong was not in a hurry to leave. He held the little fellow in his arms and watched. He knew that there was nothing in the stone. What he wanted to see was Li Wangsai's expression later. He believed that it would be wonderful to spend $5 million on a pile of broken stones. The stone cutters said to Li Wangkai, "Sir, do you want to draw a line on the stone?" Li Wangkai took the chalk and drew a line on the stone at random. He said, "Just follow this line. When there is jade, I will give you a big reward." "Okay." The 2 stone cutters agreed and immediately began to work. Their salary here was not high. Their main source of income was the tips of these rich guests. Chi, the stone cutting machine made a deafening sound. A cloud of white mist burst out from the saw blade. The stone cutting officially began. Everyone watched attentively. Li Wangkai was a little nervous. $5 million was more than 30 million yuan. Although he had some money, it was definitely not a small number. He had just spent it on impulse. Now he was looking forward to cutting out a big piece of jade. As the saw blade continued to penetrate deeper, only to hear a click, but it was divided into two. In front of everyone's eyes, two gray surfaces were revealed. What the hell? It's over. It's really over. 5 million is gone. There was a commotion in the crowd immediately. However, it was Li Wangsai's money, so people did not have much reaction. Some people were just gloating. The fat on Li Wangsai's face shook. He glared at the woman fiercely and then shouted again, "Cut again. Continue to cut." He was a frequent visitor to the raw gemstone exhibition, and he was also very good at stone gambling. Sometimes there would be a small piece of top-quality jade hidden in a corner. If he could really cut it out, he could immediately earn back the 5 million yuan. The two stone-cutting masters nodded. They found a new entry point and started the machine again. With another ear-piercing cheech-cheech sound, the two boulders turned into four, but they were still grayish-white, without the slightest hint of green. Seeing this result, people were completely disappointed. It's ruined. It's completely ruined. It must be a total loss. 5 million? It's 5 million. It's really a big loss to buy such a rotten stone. He's really stupid. He only chose the big one. Now he must have lost a lot. Seeing the gray fragments of the raw gemstone, Li Wangsai's face was as ugly as if his father had died. A stone-cutting master asked carefully, "Sir, do you still want to cut it?" "Of course I want to cut it out." "You must cut out the jade for me." Li Wangsai gritted his teeth and said. The stone-cutting master was speechless. He thought to himself, "I can cut out the jade from any stone. Do I still need to serve a brainless guy like you?" However, since the customer had a request, they had to meet it. So they started the machine again. In fact, there was no need to cut this stone again. People with discerning eyes could see at a glance that there could be no jade in it. However, Li Wangsai was not willing to give up. Not to mention losing $5 million, he couldn't let go of his face at the same time. However, in this way, some experienced people had completely lost interest. They shook their heads and left. As the sound of cutting sounded again, the stones that had been divided into four were cut again, from 4 to 8, from 8 to 16, from 16 to 32. In the end, the big stone became small pieces on the ground. Li Wangsai's face was black and he was finally speechless. The coquettish woman was also like a frosted eggplant. She stood aside honestly. It's fun. The little fellow was watching with relish as if she had seen the most interesting thing. She clapped her hands and shouted happily. Qin Haodong took 2 steps forward with the little fellow in his arms and said to Li Wangsai and the woman, "Don't learn everything from others in the future. My daughter wants the big one, so you should follow her. Now you're dumbfounded, aren't you? It's all your fault. If you hadn't chosen that stone, we wouldn't have chosen it." Speaking of this, the woman seemed to have found a vent in an instant. She roared like a shrew, "What do you think the raw gemstone is? You have to choose the big one. That stone is big. Why didn't you choose it?" She raised her hand and pointed to the river next to her. Qin Haodong looked in the direction of her finger and saw a big stone weighing 30 or 40 tons in the center of the river. Under the impact of the river, it set off a thick mist of water. When he saw the stone clearly, his expression suddenly changed. Chapter 424. The reason why Qin Haodong was so shocked was that the spiritual qi contained in this stone was so rich that it was much richer than that of the king green he had seen before. However, because the river was flowing fast and it was covered by the mist, he didn't find it just now. Could it be that such a big stone was full of jade? Good stuff, really good stuff. At this time he was very excited and he didn't hate the coquettish woman so much. After all, without this woman's provocation he wouldn't have noticed this stone. Seeing that Qin Haodong didn't speak, the coquettish woman felt that she finally got back a little face and said, "Why don't you speak? Don't you want a big one? This stone is big enough. Why don't you want it?" "Who said I don't want it?" Qin Haodong turned around and said something that surprised everyone. "I want this stone. No one is allowed to take it from me." Hearing his words, the eyes of the people around him fell to the ground. Was this young man crazy? This stone was the river-suppressing stone of this river. No one could remember how many years it had been here. In everyone's eyes, it was a stubborn stone. Such a big stone did not have a single crack. It was smooth and had no python patterns or spots. No matter how they looked at it, it had nothing to do with jade. Because of this, no one had paid attention to the suppressing river stone for so many years in the raw gemstone trading market. Everyone was shocked speechless, but the little fellow clapped her hands and shouted, "Great! Great! Daddy chose the biggest stone." Her world was very simple. The bigger the stone, the better. The coquettish woman just wanted to hit Qin Haodong with the suppressing river stone. She didn't expect that he would really say that he wanted to buy it. However, she didn't believe what Qin Haodong said in any case. She said, "You Wuxia people always brag like this. Did you force me?" Qin Haodong forcibly suppressed his inner excitement and ignored the woman. He took out his mobile phone and called Mao Wenlong directly. Soon, Mao Wenlong rushed over with his people and said respectfully to Qin Haodong, "Mr. Qin, what can I do for you?" Qin Haodong pointed to the suppressing river stone and said, "How much is that stone?" "I want it." Mao Wenlong was shocked. He couldn't believe his ears. If Qin Haodong hadn't been a distinguished guest, he would have suspected that he was crazy. He took a deep breath, calmed down and said, "Mr. Qin, what do you want it for?" Qin Haodong said, "Of course, to see if there is jade inside." Seeing his serious expression, the people around him laughed. Although Burma was rich in jadeite, it didn't mean that there was jade in any stone. The suppressing river stone was just an ordinary big stone. How could there be jade in it? Mao Wenlong suppressed the urge to curse and said, "Mr. Qin, that's our suppressing river stone. It's just a stone. It's not even a raw jade stone. There can't be jade in it." Qin Haodong said indifferently, "It doesn't matter. It's big enough. Maybe there are treasures inside." The people who were watching the show were about to collapse. The little girl said that she liked the big one, but that was a child's babble. That woman insisted on the big one and she was brainless. Now someone jumped out and asked for an even bigger stone. What the hell was this? It was simply an indescribable super moron. But Mao Wenlong felt that with his IQ he really couldn't talk to the young man in front of him. He was a fucking lunatic. Qin Haodong said, "What's wrong? Is it difficult? Could it be that this stone is the treasure of your jade gang? Do you want me to call Boss Lu?" No. Mao Wenlong came to his senses. The gang leader had specially told him to treat the young man like an ancestor. Although the other party was a little moron, if he was really angry, the gang leader would definitely not spare him. He hurriedly said, "Since Mr. Qin likes it, this stone is yours." Qin Haodong looked happy and said, "How much is it?" Wang Wenlong said, "It's free. It's for free." "Are you serious? Are you really giving it to me?" Qin Haodong couldn't believe it was true. Judging from the spiritual qi contained in this large piece of suppressing river stone, the jade contained in it was worth at least billions of yuan. Now it was given to him for free. Mao Wenlong was really speechless. It was just a broken stone. Why were they so excited? "Yes, it's for you." Qin Haodong turned to look at Li Wangkai and said, "Brother, this stone is big. Why don't we bid again?" Li Wangkai was speechless. Did he really think he was a moron? "I won't be fooled by you. It's just such an ordinary stone. I'm afraid you'll make a deal as soon as I bid. I won't be fooled by you." Seeing that Li Wangkai didn't say anything, Qin Haodong said with a smile, "Since you're not interested, then this stone is mine." He turned back and said to Mao Wenlong, "Hurry up and help me get it up. I want to cut it on the spot." Mao Wenlong said with a bitter face, "Mr. Qin, are you serious? You're not joking, are you?" Qin Haodong said, "Of course not. Hurry up and help me get it up. I'll pay for it." Seeing that Qin Haodong was serious, Mao Wenlong could only do as he said. Although the suppressing river stone was in the center of the river and weighed more than 30 tons, there were many large mining machines in the raw gemstone exhibition venue. A stone weighing more than 30 tons was not a big deal. About an hour later, the huge suppressing river stone was parked in the venue of the raw gemstone exhibition. This time the whole venue was boiling. Many people heard that a fool had brought the suppressing river stone up and wanted to cut it on the spot. They all came to watch the fun. There were 3 layers of people inside and 3 layers outside. Some people even took out their mobile phones to broadcast live. Qin Haodong didn't care about the discussion around him at all. He was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth after picking up such a big bargain. Lin Momo was very clear about his ability to see stones. Since Qin Haodong had identified this stone, it was not simple, so she stood behind him silently. The little fellow was so excited that she clapped her hands. In her opinion, such a big stone was definitely a good thing. Finally, the stone was dragged up. Mao Wenlong stepped forward and asked, "Mr. Qin, what should we do next?" Qin Haodong said, "Find me 20 stone cutters and cut this stone for me now." Mao Wenlong immediately did so. There was no shortage of stone cutters in the raw gemstone exhibition. Soon 20 people came to Qin Haodong with tools. These people looked at the huge suppressing river stone in front of them and were a little confused. They had been stone cutters for so many years, but they had never cut such a big stone. The leader of the stone cutters said, "Mr. Qin, please draw a line, and we will cut it according to the line you drew." "Cut? Why should we cut it?" This suppressing river stone was a treasure. Qin Haodong naturally wouldn't let people cut it casually. The stone cutters said with a confused face, "Mr. Qin, how can we cut such a big stone if we don't cut it?" Qin Haodong said, cut it out for me." The stone cutters were speechless and said, "Mr. Qin, there is really no way to cut such a big stone. And there is no need to cut it at all. It will be much faster to cut it." Qin Haodong said, "You 10 people in a group and change shifts to cut it for me. As long as this stone is cut, each person will be rewarded with $10,000. $10,000? Mr. Qin, are you sure it's $10,000 per person?" The stone cutter's eyes lit up in an instant. He had been in this business for almost 20 years and had received countless tips, but the most he had received was a few $100. He had never received a reward of $10,000. It should be known that the economy of Burma was not developed. $10,000 was enough for a family to live comfortably for several years. Because of this, the other stone cutters also looked at Qin Haodong with bright eyes, expecting him to give a positive answer. Qin Haodong said, "Yes, $10,000 per person. If you organize it for me, I will give you an extra $10,000. "Well, don't worry. We'll do it now." Hearing that he could get $20,000, the stone cutters agreed excitedly and immediately asked the people to start working. As the saying goes, money makes the world go round. With so much money, they were willing to grind the stone into powder. The 20 stone cutters, in groups of 10, began to attack the huge suppressing river stone. The sound of the stone cutters rang out. For a time, smoke and dust rose and stone chips splashed. Although these people worked very hard, it would take at least a few hours to grind such a big stone. Many people felt bored after watching for a while and slowly dispersed. Qin Haodong chose a smooth stone and sat down with the little fellow in his arms. This suppressing river stone was rich in spiritual qi. There must be something good in it, but he didn't know when it would appear. He had to keep a close eye on it. He couldn't let these people hurt the jade inside. Li Wangkai glanced at the gray and white stone chips that had been cut off from the suppressing river stone, and his face was full of disdain. At this time, he had already determined that the young man in front of him was a prodigal who had money but no place to spend it. He stepped in front of Qin Haodong and said, "Boy, the bigger the better. Just like your broken stone, there must be nothing in it." Hearing what he said, the little fellow immediately said unconvinced, "Nonsense, Papa is very powerful. There must be a treasure in the stone that Papa chose." Qin Haodong looked up at him and said with a smile, "Did you hear that? My daughter said that there must be a treasure in the stone and it is so big. There must be something good." Hearing what he said, there was a burst of laughter around him. Everyone disagreed with his statement. Was there a treasure just because a child said that there was a treasure? Must there be something good in a big stone? Just now your daughter chose that big stone but there was nothing in it. Li Wangkai thought so. He had already determined that there would be no jade in this stone. He said, "Since you are so sure, do you dare to make a bet with me?" Qin Haodong said, "Well, I like to bet and I have always been lucky. I have never lost a bet." A trace of sarcasm flashed across Li Wangkai's fat face and he said, "Let's bet $10 million. As long as you cut out a nail-sized jade in this stone, I will lose." As soon as he said this, there was another uproar in the crowd. This fat man thinks he is a fool. $10 million is not a small number. Who will bet with him? I can see that he just lost $5 million because he wants to get it back from this young man. It's a bet that he will lose. As long as this young man is not stupid, he will definitely not bet with him. Everyone expressed their opinions. Qin Haodong looked at Li Wangkai with a smile and said lightly, "Well, I will bet with you." Everyone opened their mouths in surprise. This young man was really stupid. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.